And we're live. Okay, episode 49 of Game Slayer. Ooh, close to the 50 mark. I would say I would do something special for 50, but too early. I will see what we can do. But yeah, we've got a lot of news to talk about. But before we do so, let me introduce our panel members. The regular, you know them. Starting with Morgan. How are you, lady, and what have you been playing?
I'm good. I'm good. Hope everybody's good. So recently I've started playing Tunic. Well, I recently finished platinuming The Last of Us remake, but now
Ooh,
I'm on.
congratulations.
Thank you. But now I'm on Tunic, and it's interesting. It's very I see where people do some like Souls like comparisons. That first boss kicked my ass.
Really?
Very badly. Yes. But his patterns, once I realized what his patterns were, I was like, okay, like this is all I gotta do. But yeah, I've knocked down like two of the towers already. I'm not really sure, or the bells, I should say. Not really sure how many more I got since this game doesn't really tell you. But I'm having fun. It's a cute little Souls like rogue like little game. It's interesting trying to figure out what I have to do next and what area I have to go next, because like I said, there's really no guide. There's really no telling you, okay, you're in chapter 2 or you're chapter 3 or you go here next. You just kind of got to figure it out. So I'm having a good time with it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I can't wait to get my hands on Tunic. Weeb, how are you, man? What have you been playing?
Are you gonna get it too?
Sorry?
You say you're gonna play it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I played Death Door, I played, what's the other game? I think only Death Door came out. I enjoyed it. 6, 7 out of
Yeah, I
10.
love Death's Door.
I will give 6, 7 out of 10. Um, hey, Persona, what's up, man? Weeb, how are you? What you been playing?
I'm good. I've been playing Diefield Chronicle and
That's
mixing it
my
up
next
with
game.
yeah, I recommend it. And mixing it up with Curse of Monkey Island on my Steam Deck since I didn't.
Ooh,
Yeah,
how was that?
and it's I kind of have to get used to the fact that, and I'm not sure if that applies to the next one as well, but they changed the voice actor of Guybrush, so that's kind of weird hearing that. But other than that, it's fine, I guess. I mean, it has a different art style than the previous games, but
Yeah,
it has the trademark humor of Monkey Island. So yeah,
I
so
was
I'm.
wondering if it felt like a worthy comeback to you.
Oh no, I'm not playing the last one. This is the third one in the series.
Oh, okay.
I already finished. You're talking about Return to Monk Island, which I already finished last week.
Oh,
But
okay.
that,
Got you.
but yeah, if you're on the fence of getting that one, I do recommend getting it. It's actually has the original voice actor of Guybrush, but not of the Chuck, because the actor didn't want to come back to acting or whatever. But yeah, I do recommend also Return to Monkey Island, because it's by the original creators, so it really
Mhm.
is feels much more like the original Monkey Island than the other titles.
Okay,
Gotcha,
cool.
gotcha.
And
Jag,
hey, not
yeah?
finished, dude. And I'm also playing the only Xbox exclusive that
Oh
matters,
man.
that Overdrive. Also,
Which game?
the
Sunset
Sunset.
Overdrive.
Yes.
Okay, repeat that, because Morgan not talking. Go ahead.
Morgan just said what title was. It's Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive. Oh, okay, gotcha. How is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it definitely has that insomniac magic. Um, I wouldn't. I know that Xbox zealots have been saying, "Oh, you have to thank that for Spider-Man." Um, I think the only thing that might have gotten is the open world, but not necessarily the traversal. That's definitely different. It's more boring, I think, from Ratchet and Clank than Spider-Man's boring from this. But yeah, it's fun so far. It doesn't really have much of a story, but it's basically just an open world where you have to do missions and um, yeah, and it has a lot of comedy and punk rock, and so it's definitely a fun game. I can see why people were hoping for a sequel to this one, but yeah, probably never happened. Um,
Mm,
but yeah,
gotcha. Sunset Overdrive. Ooh, that's a long time. Make sure to play the DLC, but make sure to play the DLC after you play the main game.
okay.
Um, for me, the boss fight, final boss of Sunset Overdrive was fun, but the final boss of Sunset Overdrive DLC is one of my top 10 when it comes to boss fight. I really enjoyed it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not gonna spoil it. All I will say is I love concept like that.
All right.
Um,
Looking forward to it.
Other than that, yeah, no. Sunset Overdrive. Ooh. I You enjoy that traversal when it works. It's great, especially how you need to make use of your weapons while traversing. That's unique. Mm, Other than that, they they try too much to focus on what's called um, breaking the fourth wall and trying to be not per se, yeah, kind of like edgy with swear words and stuff like that instead of having it being natural. Like for example, The Last of Us, that realism, that natural. But with Sunset Overdrive, like you're looking like a clown, trying trying to look cool by swearing and stuff like that. Like, nah, it doesn't work. It feels forced almost. But
I'm
I would
uh,
absolutely play a part two about with it. But be prepared to grind a lot, especially if you want to level up every single weapon.
yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, you're not getting a lot of resources uh, just by beating enemies.
Yeah.
That takes some time to get
Not
unlock all those weapons.
only not only that, you need to do specific tasks, like for example, grind and kill 50 enemy or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no.
Yeah. So it gets tedious. Um, Viper, are you here or busy?
I'm here. What's up?
Okay. What's up? Go ahead, do your intro. What's Savaria?
So,
What you been playing?
Viper Reap. Been playing a mixture of 13 Sentinels, an Atlas game.
Ooh.
Once again, I'm an Atlas horror, and Strangers of Paradise, which I wasn't too high on, but the more I play it, the more I'm getting sucked into it.
Mm-hmm.
Story's bland. Um, the 13 Sentinels, that story's all over the place. I'm taking
Yeah.
notes. I know they have a place where you can look at all of the story in a row in like a timeline. But I don't want to depend on that. I want to try to get it as I play it. So I'm making my own little notes and what have you.
Don't worry about it. All I will say is you're gonna get sacrificed at the end. More I will not say.
Well, don't say that. No, but that's it. I tried Crowdbin. Um, Other than that, I haven't played too many other games
Mm-hmm.
other than Soul Hackers. Right after Soul Hackers, I went into those
Oh
two.
yeah, you got the plat, but that was last week, right?
Yeah, that was last week.
Yeah. What's your next game after these two?
Oh, Dowfield Chronicles.
Okay. Oh, so you're
Dowfield.
going Direfield, then Valkyrie. Oh no, you're waiting on
Yes.
Valkyrie because you want to do
I actually,
the DLC and you want to do Linus. Yeah.
I want to
I
do
remember.
Lenneth and I want to do Profile first.
Yeah. The second Linus comes out, you know me, I'm gonna be day one on that one.
Oh, no doubt.
As for me, hey, let me. Oh shit! Give me a second. I forgot to switch everyone. What's called?
Channel.
I'm gonna move everyone. And we have Mr. Innate. How are you, man? What you been playing?
Yeah, I'm good. No, I mean, I've still been playing, honestly, Cyberpunk pretty heavy.
Boo!
I'm
Everyone
leaning in
booing.
on the platinum. It's amazing, incredibly
Double
enjoyable, a
boo!
hell of an experience.
Triple
Oh man.
boo!
Damn.
hmm
All right.
hmm I'm out here experiencing all sorts of new things and quest lines that I did not
Boo!
experience in my
Boo!
first
Boo!
playthrough.
Cut it, Mike. Cut it, Mike. Okay, not joking. Real
An
talk.
absolute incredible game.
I read that there's new content. Is that true or?
There is new content.
Gotcha.
It's not huge, it's not a lot, not yet, but what they did add is great, and they cleaned up everything else even more than they did. Added a ray tracing mode to PS5, which I am not playing in because honestly, there's enough reflections. I don't need it. Um,
Does it make
but
use of
the new
haptic?
stuff looks good. Yeah, it's been doing that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it uses it in the car for the car, just general fighting, shooting, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, they did a really good job on the haptic input. Um, but yeah, the new DLC looks really good, or the expansion, which is how it should actually be addressed, because that's what it is.
What is it?
Because an expansion,
Yeah.
because an expansion is a lot bigger than any piece of DLC.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that is what them being a PC developer first says a lot about that. This one is, of course, the next up and coming expansion is only going to be on current gen consoles and PC. So some people were freaking out about
Okay,
that.
so they learned their quote unquote mistake.
They did, and they're not going to hamper this new area down by the old tech, and they made it. Honestly, I think
Oh
they made a
man.
good decision.
Anti-consumerism. Oh geez.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
So you're
man.
expecting content on the level of Blood and Wine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Waiting for that, and you're going to play it on PlayStation because you love trophies. Are you also gonna
Yeah.
double dip on PC?
Well, it's not going to cost anything, so
Oh, so free
it's,
DLC.
yeah,
Okay.
as far as
So
from what
that's
I've
their
seen,
way.
it doesn't. And even if it did, it's probably. I honestly, they price it well anyway. So even if you look at Blood and
Yeah,
Wine,
it's gonna be
that stuff
25.
was $24.99, and
Yeah.
that was for 2. So
I
this shit
would.
will probably be like 15 to 10, even if it is. So
Yeah.
and I'll get it on both. Even if it costs, I'll just get it on both. Yep.
What? So this is their way of saying we're sorry we fucked up.
I mean, it seems that
Because I
way.
remember the Blood and Wine DLC had a price to it.
No, it did. It did. But like I said, that's just what they haven't specified anything, and it seems like it's just going to be added in. So that may
Gotcha.
be. The game shot up over 20 million after the 1.6 update and the other things they added in.
And the
So
anime helped.
yeah, no, the anime definitely helped. For a lot of new people or people who were curious that were kind of holding off. But yeah, the 1.6 patch made a massive difference. It's very undersold of the amount of things it cleaned up and changed. and a lot of people are just having a really good experience with it. So yeah, shout out to them, man. Over 20 million.
Gotcha.
Personally, well deserved despite the starting fiasco. But yeah, it is what it is. It's a better game for it now.
Mm-hmm. Question: does the guns have what's called numbers? You know,
When you
RPG
shoot,
numbers.
yes,
Okay,
you can see your damage numbers.
so that might actually incite me to play it then. I'll think
Yeah, you
about it.
can see your damage numbers. You can see predetermined health bars. One of the things I'm in stealth 90% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and when you have a silencer on your weapon, you get 2.5 times damage
Mm-hmm.
uh, for a headshot or any shot, but a headshot specifically will usually knock them out or kill them entirely. So that's a nice bonus as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I will think. Right now, I'm absolutely busy with other game, but who knows? In the future, we will see. I'll think about it.
Yep.
Um, so at least I'm hoping for Gamer MD to show up. He
Hmm.
is currently on the road. Hopefully he can make it. Otherwise, just gonna be us. Before we continue, shout out to again Living with Persona. Shout out to GJ Gamer, Jake Gamer UK. Shout out to JWAG. Shout out to Steady Flow. And yeah, as for me, okay, the following information is taken strictly as opinion. It's my personal opinion, my personal belief, and everything in between. Um, I finished Valkyrie Elysium on the hardest difficulty. Fuck that game. Fuck that game for making me to play it a second time on normal difficulty if I wanna get the true end. If I wanna get the platinum, like why?
Yeah, I
We
know
are
you
in
wasn't feeling that.
2022. Like if I needed to unlock the ending, the difficulty first, I would understand it. But the difficulty was already there. I already beat it on hard difficulty. If I beat it on hard, I should be able to get it on normal. It's fucking common sense.
Hey, I was
So
going to tell you, by the way, I think you made the Game Slayer like think slightly too big, so they can't see who's talking.
wait, 1 second. Can you repeat that?
I think you made the Game Slayer like image slightly too big because it's
Oh yeah, I
covering.
understand. I understand.
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry about that.
I mean, not that we all don't sound incredibly
Yeah,
different, but people always like to look and see who's talking.
yeah, understandable. That's why I changed it. I apologize. So
People always mix me up with Morgan.
All the time. All the
Yeah.
time.
okay. So yeah, that's number one. Number two, the lack of enemies. Um, new enemies specifically. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like this is Square Enix. Yes, the game is outsourced, but still, this is Square Enix. I expected it to be a triple A game, but it's just a double A game, dude. And it frustrates me, because this could have been an amazing game, but it's not. It's 6 out of 10 at maximum. A lot of grinding if you want to get the platinum. You need to get every single weapon to SSS, which is basically you're gonna use that weapon a lot. Story is paper thin until the ending. Then something happened. Not gonna spoil it. Combat is that where the meat and the potatoes are. Combat is fun, but the camera can be extremely hectic to the point where you're doing your moves and the magic that you're doing, it's filling up the screen to the point of where you're not seeing, able to see the enemy charging you, which is frustrating most of the time. Yeah, so right now I just beat the semi-final boss. I have two more endings to unlock. I have devoted myself for this one. I'm gonna get the platinum hopefully, and then start Diofield. While I'm waiting on keyword my SSD. It's arriving in 6 to 4 days right now. Hopefully,
Gee,
can't wait. After that, I'm gonna go to the person I'm game sharing with and downloading shit ton of games, and I can't wait. But yeah, let's start with the first topic, which is going to be shout out to Switch. They're getting their first $70 price game. Ooh,
Good old Skyrim.
yo, Skyrim is running on a fucking toaster right now.
It
So
is.
yeah. Before we continue, shout out to NA, shout out to Mr. Righteous Fish. Is that just Righteous? I
It
think.
just says righteous fish.
Shout out to JBF, JBF, Jeff B Gaming. Shout out to Amon, Ra3K, and yeah. Don't give them idea, Amon. Don't give them idea. So yeah. Switch. Skyrim Collector Edition. I think it's a Collector Edition.
It's the anniversary edition.
It's
Thank you,
anniversary edition.
Anniversary Edition, and it's $70. Um, I have a big question with this one. Who is to blame for the price hike? Is it Microsoft or Bethesda or is it Nintendo? I'm genuinely curious.
Sony's fault. Everything is Sony's fault. We know this already.
It's Sony's fault. Yeah.
For you?
Sony.
It's Sony's fault. You know, everything is Sony's fault.
That was a dead serious answer for the record. Karaba, we're all dead serious.
Now, but for real now. Do you guys know? Because I'm genuinely curious.
Who put the price at 70?
Yeah.
I mean,
Bethesda, I guess.
according to bots, once you are up under Microsoft, you belong to them. So it's their fault.
Mm.
Yes.
But according to you, Google, Nintendo is publishing the game.
Publishing it, but they're still under. They are still Bethesda themselves, the developer, is still under.
Wasn't the
Xbox.
anniversary edition $7 for PlayStation 2 though?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and PlayStation didn't publish that.
Why is Nintendo publishing it?
I
Probably the only way they could get it on their damn thing.
Yeah, the only way they probably the ones that made them port it.
okay.
Yeah.
So for a second, out screen glitch. So okay, Weeb, $70 Switch. People gonna complain about it, or do you think it's gonna sell well?
Well, no and yes, it's going to sell well, and no, because it's only bad if PlayStation does it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Morgan, I'm pretty sure you're gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, precisely. Viper, you as well. I am pretty sure everyone here is thinking the same thing. So I will just move on to the next topic, which is going to be very. Viper, I know you're gonna think the same thing. Go ahead.
So wait,
Okay.
before he answers, it says, so Stead said he looked it up. Steady Flow said he looked it up, and he said it says it's published by Bethesda on Nintendo's website.
Okay, thank you. So Microsoft is at fault.
There you go.
Viper.
So, at least one person will complain, but that'll be like the tiniest voice in the world because it's PlayStation's fault. All right, moving on.
There you go.
I hate you. Okay, so this is very interesting, and I'm curious what you guys' opinion about it. So, this is from Gamuzumi. at Komuzumi, so they start. So the bad news first. We received an answer from Nintendo, and now we have a confirmation that they do not allow uncensored boobs on their console now. So they continue to
Ooh.
explain. Okay, basically, obscene content could damage the brand and infringe its policies. This means that now all games with boobs nudity should be censored, and that's why our game, Hot Tentacle Shoot, okay, was rejected in the first place. Also, our recently announced game, Elf Christmas Hentai Puzzle, was also rejected due to having nudity. That's all the info we have so far. We'll try to send the game without nudity for approval again and see what they say, and update the thread if necessary. Um, it's a shame that now all consoles have restrictions about nudity content. This probably will affect not only our games, but also games from other publishers slash devs at least. We still can release the game censored.
It's
And
also
then they say,
$49.99
one
on
second.
PlayStation.
But we still have platforms like Steam and more where we can release the game fully uncensored for everyone. So it's interesting to me that even Nintendo is moving away from this one. Um, I'm curious, was it underage girls? Which I don't think they would even attempt to get to rally their fan base with this one, but it fails just because of Unity. So, Weeb, how do you feel about this one?
Did you say my name?
Yeah, I said Weeb.
Oh yeah, you cut out for a second. How do we feel about it? I mean, glad to have a Steam Deck, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we knew this was coming, right? PlayStation was ahead of the curve there. Again, I don't agree with this. I feel like, if your game has a proper rating, and it's a particular genre, I mean, it is allowed to exist in its the way it's intended. But I see what they're trying to do, but again, I think we're moving in the wrong direction. I think we're moving backwards. We need to, the way I see this is that they're probably concerned with, and I think that's also Sony's concern was with the idea that they're going to be used on the 12 o'clock news or whatever, or 8 o'clock news, when there's some sort of controversy, when there's shooting or whatever, and they're going to use, oh look, video games are violent, and look at these extreme examples that they allow you to do this kind of shit, and that's they're going to use that to maybe pass legislation to restrict game sales, and I think and that will damage their brand. I think that's sort of the logic they're going for, and Sony probably was the first one to decide to do because they were the market leader, and now we see that Microsoft and Nintendo are doing the same thing.
I think, no, Microsoft have done it before Sony. Like Microsoft, I remember a game, it didn't come out on Microsoft, but it did come out on PlayStation because Microsoft rejected the semi-nudity or whatsoever.
Yeah, I know it's a bit all over the place because
Yeah.
they're all, some games are maybe censored on PlayStation and not on other platforms, and vice versa.
And vice versa, yeah.
It looks like this is something that they're all now
Yeah,
concerned.
precisely. Everyone is saying no to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I don't like this development, and I hope that the very least PC remains an open platform in that sense, so that you can. Because I remember not the last one, but the former South Park game. I think it was made by Obsidian. The European version of that game was censored also on PlayStation at the time. So I bought the version on Steam because I wanted to play the uncensored version. But that's something, I guess, of all time, and it's pretty weird here in Europe because it highly depends on which country's version they're going for. Because I remember on the Wii back then, they also had like No More Heroes. There was I imported the US version, or I think Canadian version of that game, because the European version had no blood in it. They censored that for some reason, even though the game is highly stylized and it's so cartoony and over the top that it's you can't take that seriously. But still, but it's very random because there was a lot of violent games that were not censored and were much more violent than this game. So I don't know what the logic is there, but yeah, I guess we're moving a bit backwards here. Not a good development. I want us, share and say, look, now Nintendo and Xbox are doing the same thing, but in the end, it's not a good development for anybody. I guess we sort of have to vote with our wallets, in the sense that if we don't want to support this, then buy it on a platform where you can get it uncensored. And I say, yeah, PC in that regard is probably the only platform that's going to be uncensored. And even if they somehow try to censor it, at the very least, you probably can, find mods or whatever that will de-censor shit for you, as long as they don't remove content. So yeah, not a positive development. Like I said, I want to say, told you so, but yeah. And everybody loses.
Quick question. The South Park game you're talking about Stick of Truth, correct?
Yeah. The European version was censored in a few areas.
So I'm asking because there was an entire level dedicated to little graphic here, Mr. Slave's asshole, and
yeah.
I was wondering, did they take that whole level out, or did they just like blur a bunch of shit?
Yeah, I don't know, because I played the Steam version and that one was uncensored, but the console version was censored. And I understand that they took that entire section out. I think they replaced, I think, with a European flag and something like, we can't show this, whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's okay. Before we go to the next person, shout out to Ghostface, shout out to Stage, my man, the fucking encyclopedia of the Assassin's Creed franchise. You need anything Assassin's Creed related, hit him up. He knows more than most people. Viper, what's your thought?
Well, so I was looking at that article, and my past hasn't been exactly clean. So when I saw the word hentai, I was like, I don't know why you would put that in the title anyway, because that's a red flag. But censorship, no. I'm
so
not.
the reason why they put it in the title because they want people to know what it is.
Okay, but hentai is more than just showing off boobs. Way more.
Yeah, no, hentai is borderline sex, yeah.
So I didn't know if I would understand if they said, "Oh no, you can't come here with that." I would understand that, but I don't like censorship, and I think I stated this before. I don't like it, but what can I say? It's video games, and I'm playing it for the game. Actually, if I wanted to see boobs, I got real life for that. I don't need games for it. So, yes, I'm against it only simply because I want to support the people who are against it because they want their games as is. But it doesn't matter to me at all. if they
Yeah, gotcha. I will ask the second question later. Morgan, how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's just I agree with like Weave and Viper. Honestly don't see the problem, the issue, why the censorship is needed if you have the right rating and the right, warning on the label or whatever of what the game contains, then there should be no reason as to censor the boobs or whatever. Like, um it seems quite unnecessary. Like, what's the point of an M rating or whatever if you're going to censor shit anyway? So it's just, I don't know. It seems like this is the direction that gaming's going. The more PC we get, the more censorship starts to pop up. So it is what it is at the end of the day, I guess.
So, Anait, what's your thought?
I mean, like I said, it doesn't even surprise me. So, I mean, it's nothing new to me. I've been dealing with
Hold up.
Nintendo censorship bullshit for
Really?
years.
That doesn't surprise? Because Nintendo normally used to allow stuff
Nope.
like
So
this.
the first time they irked my nerves is when Bravely Default, they changed the some of the female character clothing when they brought the game overseas here. And there was nothing wrong with what they were wearing in the Japanese version. They weren't naked or anything. And they changed like a bunch of stuff. And some of the outfits were like really dope because if you've ever seen Bravely Default, in order to change jobs, when they change jobs, they change what they're wearing. So some of the outfits and stuff that they brought over, where they changed them, were ugly as shit, and that annoyed the shit out of me. And I never got over that while I was playing. And they did it later, again for Bravely Second as well. So yeah, I've been dealing with the bullshit forever, so it doesn't surprise me. But I mean, I would never stoop so low as to play the worst version of Skyrim anyway. Like many games on the Switch being the worst version to play. So yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I'm semi disappointed in all of you that you guys didn't call out the hypocrisy. But let me start. First of all, to PlayStation and Nintendo, real talk, this is not a jab, I swear. I just have no idea which game Microsoft have showcased boobs or any nudity or anything of that ilk. Let's start with PlayStation. A game called The Last of Us 2 have literally borderline sex in it.
Wasn't borderline.
Yeah, it
That
wasn't
was sex.
borderline. I mean, it was fucking.
That was pure sex.
No, but they were literally fucking, and you could see her boobs. Like,
that was definitely a HBO After Dark.
Yeah, Cinemax.
so we are not gonna pretend that shit never happened. Again, this comes from a person that hates fan service. I'm not a fan of fan service whatsoever. Viper said it best. He have a person, he has the real life stuff. If someone else doesn't, website exists for that. This doesn't need to be in video games nor anime, but or
Hey,
manga.
just to be clear, I mean, if the game is a pornographic game, it's not fan service because the entire point of it is to be
Yeah, but this
pornographic.
is just I'm joking. I'm talking about fan service in general, not
So you
this
should
game.
just say sex or something or nudity or something because fan service can be just anything added to intentionally please the audience.
Yeah,
That's why I
so
kept telling you fan service was like not always the correct usage for that.
okay, yeah, you do say it's the same stuff. Okay, then I would
Yeah, like
say
if I really
I am.
wanted a Lamborghini in the game and they added a Lamborghini, that's
Then
fan
that's fan
service.
service. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Then I'm not a fan of sexual fan service. There you go.
There you
Better.
go.
So here is this thing with me. This is The Last of Us 1. I mean The Last of Us 2. It has nudity in it. So why can't other games have? And I get it. Last of Us 2, Naughty Dog, one of the best, if not the best studio out there. My opinion. And other.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Here's the thing. There's obviously a difference, like I said, with fan service and functional nudity, right? And in this case, two people were having sex because that the story needed that, right? That was because the story is written in that way that
Yeah,
that
I
moment
agree.
had.
The story did need that. It literally
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's different from what you as describe as sexual fan service. That generally is described as something that's not necessary, but simply there for pleasing a particular audience.
But
And again,
that's
there's nothing
still
wrong with it. But I'd say I think they sort of draw the line there where they argue one is artistic and one is yeah, not that, right?
but that's
And I
cherry
think that
picking.
sorry.
That's cherry picking.
It's not cherry picking in the sense that context matters, right? Because you can show one scene, like if you show the scene The Last of Us out of even if it's out of context, it's very clear that this is a mature setting. It's not supposed to be intended as being pornographic or fan service or whatever. And if you juxtapose that with a scene in a game, or I don't know, a hentai game might be a wrong comparison because that's the intention of the entire game. But if it's a game that, I don't know, let's say a JRPG and it has say it has nudity in it, but purely for the sake of of fan service, right? Then it has a different purpose, and then you could say there's no artistic or functional use of that, right? That's why you call it fan service.
Okay, but here is
I,
where I disagree with. Sorry, I thought you were finished.
Well, I mean, I know what you want to disagree with because you say potato, right? You say I'm just saying that the context
Yeah, I
matters.
understand you what you
Otherwise you're
mean with.
comparing apples and oranges.
I understand you, and I take your point with it. However, I disagree because there is something called ASRB rating. So the second you give a game a rating, it's over. You know for definition what it is. You can read what it's all about. So then
Oh,
context
I agree with you in that one. I think
yeah, go ahead.
nobody disagrees with you in this panel on that one. But the thing is, arguing from why they're allowing nudity in certain games and not in other games because of
Yeah,
what its function is.
I
I
understand
think
your
that's where,
context.
and even though the rating should cover that, and I totally agree with you in that, is like I said,
Did you? Oh shit.
what there are concerns that there are boobs on a console, whatever, but what context they're shown, or it can also be with violence, right? In what context they're shown. And like I said, I think they're just afraid that they're gonna next time there's a shooting or next time something happens that they're gonna blame video games for. They're gonna use the worst examples, like they did. They have done it before, like when they try to blackball video games. They show you fatalities in Mortal Kombat. They show you Manhunt, all the worst possible games. Just show that they can create a narrative like, oh yeah, this is so disturbing. Of course, video games are bad, right? And I think that's sort of the reason why like I said, they want to protect their image. That's why they're doing this. It's not about ratings. It's not about what we want. That it's about perception.
So, two things. The first one, why would they then, and I'm talking now Nintendo, we put Sony aside, why would Nintendo allow for a game like Bayonetta to exist then? Because Bayonetta is literally borderline a sex appeal game. Like, what's her name? Bayonetta. I forgot what her actual name is. I think Cecile, but I forgot. Her character is literally just covered with her own hair. But however, when you do your full move, she gets naked and you see her ass. Well, at least on PlayStation
Well,
3
but
version.
you don't see anything explicit. They still cover it up, and the difference with Bayonetta is that her character sexuality is part of her character, right? You can look at it as fan service if you want, but uh,
No, but that's
it's
different.
also it's also part of her character. She's very confident in that. So at least for me, I don't see that as fan service. I don't know if that the outside perception will be the same, but I don't see that as the same thing. And I also understand that she was designed by a woman, so it's not that this is just like some sort of fantasy of
But
a horny male developer or designer who made this.
yeah,
This is part of her character. So I have a lot. I think there's a lot less issue with that than with your typical fan service, because this is the point. This is in a way similar to the sex in The Last of Us, because it's style, but it's also functional, right? Her style is a function of her character. And that sense, I think that, yeah, again, from the outside world, like if somebody would show you Bayonetta without context, they would probably just consider that as fan service, yes, as sexualizing a woman. But I'd say this is a good example of how you can use that as part of the character. So I don't necessarily see that as the same thing as a hentai game or whatever you want to use as a comparison.
but let's give it 60%, if not more, of Bayonetta is literally just over sexualized to the point like she have a move where she is literally doing the BMX, what's called, she is hitting us, whipping an enemy while standing on top of him, sexualized style. Like, I played Bayonetta 1, I know what Bayonetta is about, and to me, it just feels like hypocrisy. Because you want to play it quote unquote safe, but still you want to allow a game like Bayonetta. Like, that might be the issue.
Well,
Either, yeah,
I think they're actually cleaning up Bayonetta 3 a little bit too. So
I
I
said
don't.
so. They don't believe that, but I said so.
So
Oh, I hope
it,
not.
it's across the board.
Sorry, what did you say?
I said that they're slowly making it across the board. What you got to understand is we're in a day and age where my daughter can't even say the word "stupid" in her class without getting suspended. So it's more or less political correctness and just trying to make things look clean and nice and peachy and fun and for kids and stuff like that. Um, they going to go the extra mile to try to do that.
Yeah, I disagree with that, because yes, there's probably part of it to be politically correct, but there's also like my point has nothing to do with political correctness. It has to do with it generally is the opposite end of the spectrum, right? The conservative right that's usually scapegoating games, for gun control, whatever, right? Anything they don't want to do, they're going to blame games on. And those are the people that they are afraid of, that they're going to use the most extreme
You're
cases, games, for their agenda. And that's, I think, the reason why they're censoring games, or particular games, like the same reason why Sony wanted that the horror game where I think you wear your sister's face or something at some point.
Yeah, so
They had
basically
to
it's
censor it. Yeah,
so basically what happened is Martha is dead or something like that.
yeah,
Shout out
that game
to
exactly.
Gaming Despair, he
Yeah.
played it. There is so from what I've heard, I didn't play it, so this is just from what I've heard. There is a mini game where you need to do an abortion, and you actually need to press the button prompt. So apparently in the PlayStation 3 PlayStation version, they removed the button prompt. So it just happened as a movie, almost.
Yeah, but
So
I think this is exactly a game that if they, let's say, was a Republican, right, in the Senate trying to have a presentation like, look, this is why video games are bad, and they're the reason why there are shootings and kids get violent, blah blah blah. Look at this game. You have to perform an abortion. Like, how can we allow this, right? They're going to use that game, and the problem, the recent PlayStation probably doesn't want to, is they don't want to see that PlayStation logo there. They want to see the DualSense inputs there. They want to make sure that their name is not tied to this.
But 1 second, Viper. My issue with it is as follow. A game that most of the people in here are excited for, Stellar Blade. The developer, and I'm talking about the actual developer himself, put out a picture of the main character with a tower behind her, and the picture is strictly focused, like not focused, but like it's clearly visible her ass, not naked, but just normal. And they're saying nice tower or whatsoever. Cause you have literally a game that's about to be published by PlayStation. You have the actual developer, what's called, almost like promoting their game for its quote unquote sex appeal. So, if we're gonna use your talking point, which is not a talking point because it happened before, but I'm trying to explain. If we're gonna use what you're saying, then they could also easily use this game and point out how sex is quote unquote horrible and look what games are doing. So that could be
No.
easy.
No, they can't. They
See,
can't.
if she has a thong on or her ass cheeks are hanging all the way out, then yes, that's a no. But she's fully clothed and it looks like a normal ass. They can't do anything about that.
And you're forgetting there's an absolute double standard there. That's because Republicans love Hooters, right? They if you look like, I've seen sometimes some excerpt from Fox News, and at the same time they're complaining about women being or children being exposed to nudity in games or whatever, and then they're taking their kids to Hooters, and that's normal, right? So it's absolutely a hypocrisy, certainly there, but you have to understand how this works, right? Sexualizing women is not an issue to them. They're going to pick the examples where there's nudity, especially if it's like cartoon nudity, because like hentai, right? Because it's a cartoon, it's aimed at children. How dare they show naked women or men, whatever, in a cartoon, right? That's what they're going with. It's not about I understand your point, Omar. You're reasoning this from a normal person, from gamers, right? But you have to look at it from how is this going to be used by these politicians, right? I think this is the main reason why they're applying censorship, because like Nintendo literally says it's about their image, right? It has nothing to do with regulations. It's nothing to do with their ratings. Everything to do with perception outside of the gaming sphere. And if they were just concerned about their consumers, I mean, their consumers love the fact that they were proud that Nintendo was the platform where you could play your ecchi or hentai games or whatever, uncensored. And now that's no longer the case, because they're not focusing necessarily on what their consumers want, but the perception of politicians, of pressure groups, of the PTAs, whatever, right? They want to avoid them being used in the proverbial presentation of the senator, like, look at this game being being played by our kids or being sold to our kids, right? And then seeing the big Nintendo logo on top of that, right? That's what they want to avoid.
Before we continue, chat, what's your thoughts? I'm curious what your thoughts. Chat in the comment. Viper, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna. I was on Weeb's point. there can be more than one reason why they don't want this stuff in the games, and your
Sure.
reason may be the primary one, but there could be others. Say for example, what about rape victims? If they have somebody pinching a nipple or squeezing a boob as an attempt to rape, and then they cut the scene, they might be cutting it because of rape victims. They could be cutting it because of the politicians. They could be cutting it
Yeah,
because
that's also what I said. Like
your
I didn't disagree with you.
your
It said that there are
not
multiple reasons.
it can be for many reasons.
Yeah,
And your reason included.
yeah. Just to argue, the point is the this particular thing. The main reason is generally, politics. It's not because they they care for offending people's sensibilities, right? Things like what you said, like indeed, sexual assault, um, things that are like Rockstar removing some transphobic jokes out of their I don't know which GTA it was, but yeah, that's a thing that hasn't. They're not doing this for politics because the political movements that will go after them are not interested in those rights. That's for perception for the general public because the zeitgeist has changed, right? What used to be condoned is no longer condoned. So rather than dealing with the negative consequences of uh, keeping those jokes in and trying to defend those, they changed that. They realized, okay, we no longer accept those, and that's not always a bad thing because we evolve, we move on, right? I mean, if you go 100 years back, lots of things were okay. People were openly racist and didn't think they were racist by doing so. But we've evolved. We've evolved to the point where we understand that these things we did or people said back then are racist, and that applies to any form of intolerance and whatsoever. So yeah, sometimes you have to get with the times, and if you don't, then you run the risk of getting reputation damage purely because everybody will be on your ass for keeping those things in there. And the only people who will support you or will be most vocal who will support you will be the geeks and gamers on YouTube, and you don't want to be associated with those people. So yeah, that's definitely also a reason why people might censor games or change things in games. But yeah, again, it highly depends on the context. And I think in this context, it's so broad that it's not specific. That I think this is mainly for they're worried about pressure groups and political movements that might use them essentially to scapegoat gaming, and they don't want to be they don't want to have their logo be on that PowerPoint
We're
presentation or whatever.
we're on the same side. I said your reason is the primary reason.
Mm-hmm.
I said your reason is the primary reason, but you can't negate the other 3 or 4 reasons they could possibly be doing it too.
Yeah, and yeah, I think we're sort of arguing in circles here because we are agreeing with each other and just saying that it depends on the context, right?
Yeah, that works.
Which region they're using. Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer your original question, Karaba,
Go ahead.
why Bayonetta and not the way that they're doing Skyrim is because of what we've originally said. The way that they control the viewpoint for Bayonetta, you don't see anything explicit. You cannot do that in Skyrim, and you could just be butt ass naked. But that's why. That's it. It's just that simple. You can't control it. So therefore you have to cover it up. So they can't control it so that you can't see that. So rather, since they can't control it in the same way they can control it in Bayonetta when she's doing those moves you're talking about, they're just going to cover it up.
Okay. Anyone have anything else to say about this topic? Because I have a follow-up, but I want to move on from this topic. Okay. The follow-up would be: do you think now developers are gonna almost walk on eggshells while developing a game?
I think some will, because they already do, but I think some will absolutely not give a shit, which is what it's all about being an artist. So yeah, I think it's just that simple. It's always going to be that way. Like for instance, Morgan introduced me to The Office not too long ago. And this is another artistic form, media. The majority of that show and the jokes and shit that happened in that show will not happen again. But they've already happened, so you can just keep showing, the show, in a place where people can go to it themselves and engage in it and choose to engage in it. But that form of comedy, that form of art expression and comedy won't happen again because there's a lot of stuff that, although funny, you know, uh, people would have a heart attack today if half the shit on that show was said in a brand new show.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Morgan?
Your question was, what would developers have to walk on eggshells?
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
precisely. Are developers going to work on eggshells now?
I mean, it seems like they may not have a choice but to. Yeah.
Depending on who you're developing for, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also true. But yeah, it just seems now like whatever they create in the what they start off with in the drawing room, they're just gonna have a real conversation as to how far they are basically allowed to push, and you just gotta hope that doesn't hamper into whatever vision that they have for the game, because now they're just gonna have to be like, all right, this is the line we can't cross. So let's just see a way, I guess, to develop around that. It kind of sucks because I don't ever really want anybody's creative vision, regardless of whatever it is, to be hampered or to be censored in any way. But it kind of seems like it's not really going to be a choice in the matter if you wanted to get published by certain publishers. So.
Mm-hmm. Piper?
Well, yeah. I tell you who's not going to be walking on eggshells. Kojima. He's going to do whatever the hell he want to do. But others may. To the same effect as what Nate said. Another show is like Married with Children, and 90% of the damn jokes in that movie are all in that TV show are all sex related. So they won't be putting that stuff like that on TV again. And as we move forward into the future, little by little, they're going to be sort of cleaning things up. No boobs here. No leg fat here. No arm fat there. The next thing you know, you got fully clothed sprites wherever you go. So.
Mm-hmm. Weeb?
Yeah, I definitely think that especially indie developers are gonna be more cautious because they now at least know that that Nintendo is no longer an option for them. So they will either have to completely focus on the platforms like Steam and whatever other platforms there are for their games, and adjust their sales expectation then, so probably reduce the scope of their games, or they have to proactively take out things out of their games to essentially get through that certification for those games. So yeah, I think they will walk on eggshells, as you say. I think bigger developers will likely not have to face that because there is unfortunately a double standard in the sense that they can more easily get away with it, and if there's anything they need to remove, it's a lot easier for them to do than a very small indie developer that they probably can't afford to easily change part of their game as much as a large AAA developer or publisher can. So yeah, there will be a reckoning as it were, but I think the bulk will be borne by the smaller indie developers.
Gotcha. So, Give me a second so I get the next topic. I had it here. There you go. So, shout out to Yokai Rider VT. He or she is the one that shared it. I read it, but she have it here. So, new Overwatch 2 account have to unlock old heroes too. So basically, you need to play the game for almost 100 hours in order to unlock all the old heroes, which mind-boggling. But it got worse. Overwatch 2 will record voice chat and requires a phone number to play.
Mm.
Is that their way to...
We're getting real China real fast.
So yeah, oh sorry. I wanna repeat my statement. It's not 100 hours, but 100 matches. I have to make sure. I thought so. 100 hours too much. So yeah. Also, they share that about phone numbers. One person said, "I myself wasn't sure what a prepaid or postpaid phone was until now. Nor do I know, but okay. I have just found out I have a postpaid phone, at least according to my provider, who has confirmed this, as I am always being billed at the end of the month. But even she was confused early. I had just tried giving my phone number to myself to my account to see if it works, and yet it will not go through, saying I need a postpaid number when I do have one. So, does
So they run
anyone here
into
know the
technical
difference between
difficulties.
a postpaid and prepaid?
A prepaid is like a burner phone, like the shit you see in the movies where they walk in the store and they buy a phone and put minutes on it. Like versus like my phone bill, like my number on my phone is never going anywhere. It's not tied specifically to that phone. Like I can take it and move it, and it's on my bill, like from Verizon or AT&T or any of these companies. It's not. I'm not paying for minutes individually or something like that, or for that temporary service tied to that phone. Like my number is it's a bill. It's a constant number.
So you don't have an abonnement for your phone?
Don't have a what?
Uh,
Subscription, I mean.
I
Oh,
thought abonnement was an English word. Sorry about that. Subscription.
yeah, no.
We
I mean,
we
it's not.
I used to have a prepaid phone. I mean, they
Yeah,
used to be before subscriptions became the norm. That was kind of thing that you just bought a prepaid SIM card where essentially there was
Yeah, I
already
have
a
a SIM
reminder.
card. I don't buy phones with a subscription service anymore. So is that what they're asking for? For you to have subscription service?
Well, well, I don't know what they're asking for, but the difference is, a prepaid is basically just you already have money on that SIM card basically, and that's
yeah.
your that those are
Allowance.
your minutes. That's what you can call with. And for subscript, I assume postpaid is just you pay a subscription service, or you pay the minutes that you actually called, and that's what you're charged with.
Yep.
Okay. So shout out to Blizzard for continue being one of the worst company in the world. Um, Viper, what's your thoughts? I know you don't fuck with that game, but just it seems wild with this one.
So, um, hmm, phone numbers. That me personally, I get a lot of spam on a regular basis, a lot.
Dude,
And
I had a period where I had that a lot. I know
and,
how you
and
feel.
Yeah, so I'm very worried about how I get my phone number out. And the problem is I've had the same phone number for like 15, 17 years now. So the moment I change it, I know that I'm going to be much more careful and not having any of that stuff happening. However, I wouldn't if it requires if it okay I ain't gonna lie if a video game asks me for my phone number, I'm going to give it out because I want to play that game. But
Hmm.
otherwise I wouldn't. Um,
Even if it's a shady company as Blizzard.
if they were making the game that I wanted to play, yeah.
Hmm. Gotcha.
The only thing my top priority where I'm at is white family games, family games in no particular order now. So when if I want to play a game and they said the only way I wouldn't give out information for a game is if I know for a fact they're just trying to scam me and it's not an actual game.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just don't particularly like that because it's getting
Invasive, yes.
very invasive, right? This is turning into the Chinese thing, and I say that because like they overly control what you do, like in the government and tech companies and all these people are constantly trying to slowly do this and encroach upon any sort of freedom you have, right? To a scary degree, like stuff I won't even get into, but I was listening to some shit last night and it was like, wow. Like,
Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, like one of the biggest things is like the whole thing, like you need a to play specifically in China, you need like your ID number in order to play because basically you're only allowed to play for a certain amount of time, especially if you're under a certain age or whatever. Like Viper can determine if his child can stay up till 11:30
Yeah.
and play Call of Duty all night. That's his child. But like in China, they be like, nah, your child played for 2.5 hours. That's all they get today, and they shut it off. Like this is this type of shit that we're encroaching upon, that we're getting close to. I just really don't like, and requiring everyone that's giving them access to other stuff, and they're like, oh, what's the first thing companies say? We won't use it for that or this or all this other bullshit. And it's like, no, you're fucking lying, because every time y'all say y'all won't use it for something, we find out after y'all get hacked or some shit gets leaked or somebody, or Bill fucks up in accounting and sends an email, to the public version instead of internal. And we find out y'all been selling, what I'm saying, information to the highest bidder the whole time. Like, so like we already don't trust these motherfuckers, and they already got your damn email, they got your PSN, they got all, like, they gradually just they like, just in case you win a prize, how about you put your address in there too? Like it's they want that information, they want it so badly. Um,
And
and it's a
knowing
mess.
what happened with Blizzard and Activision, do you trust them with that information?
I mean, I don't trust none of these motherfuckers because apparently none of them can protect their servers or anything enough to even hold that information. So, I mean, that's a mess in and of itself. So, I mean,
Hmm.
the other thing is, I know uh, anyone who has done YouTube long enough has been some sort of victim of like automatic bans or automatic strikes or automatic, like all this stuff. That stuff works terribly, and this is what they're basically using, the phone number and stuff, to try to tie everything together, right? This is their attempt at curving, like they always use it to like, so the PC people are like, yay, this is wonderful, that we're going to use this to curb toxicity, or whatever. And it's like, no, you're going to use this to ban the shit out of people, uh sometimes rightfully and sometimes wrong, in the wrong. And and when you're in the wrong, it's going to take them fucking forever to get their account back, maybe. Like, I'm just saying, like, none of this stuff ever has a good outlook. Every time they try to be overly invasive and overly hands-on, unless they have a person reviewing everything play by play, you know what I mean, and determining actual rule breaking and stuff, none of that shit's gonna work, and they're not gonna do that. Um, Blizzard Activision is about the bottom line, like any other company, and they're gonna try the cheapest, quickest way to get around this bullshit, and that's gonna be that. And yeah, it's a mess, man. I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, thankfully, I don't play Overwatch, but thankfully, even if I did, this is the main reason. And people complain about this, right? When they jump in a match, they can't ever meet nobody because guess what? Everybody's talking in either party chat or Discord because these games are looking to constantly punish the original, quote unquote, rite of passage, right? Of playing online. And I'm not saying it doesn't get crazy. I mean, I've been playing online since I was in middle school, you know what I mean? And I'm over 30 now. So yeah, I've literally heard it all. I mean, I've made my younger brother leave a Counter-Strike server because the amount of racial slurs I could hear being slung across the house was ridiculous. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, but I made that decision, you know what I mean? Um, like ultimately, and it's someone's server, so they can do what they want in their server. Yeah, it's just it's God, it's just gonna be a mess, man. They're gonna fuck it up because and you can ask how do I know? Because every single time they try to do these like auto detections, did you violate this or this, that, and the third, or somebody said fuck or something and they weren't really saying it at the person. Like it's like you're trying to control people talking, and it's just not going to work out
Mm-hmm. So I have
on
a
so many
question.
levels. Yeah,
What's your thoughts now on what's called needing to unlock all the hero?
I mean that I don't give a fuck. That may could me, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because number one, that makes no sense. Not that it makes no sense, but that makes no sense to be upset about. And I'll tell you what, it's Overwatch 2. It's a new game. Like I have to level up in Call of Duty again.
One
Like that.
second. My I can't hear anymore. Give me a second so I change my battery.
Yep. Yeah, Omar having technical difficulties real quick. He gotta change the battery. I'm telling you, bro, we gotta get
Man,
Omar
working with
like
Xbox controllers. Oh man.
I knew it was coming. I was like
I was about to say it, but you beat me to
I was like, this man gotta change the batteries. He got the remote.
Oh man.
Now, Omar, you using Duracell? What you using over there?
You didn't pay extra for that battery pack, huh? Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get them rechargeable batteries.
That's the first thing somebody asked me about on my 20th edition Xbox controller. They were like, "Ooh, you got that Phil signature." I was
I'm
like, "No, I
back.
don't."
Can you please
I was like, "I
repeat
do
what you
not."
said, Innate?
Yeah, so I said it's not a big deal because it's Overwatch 2, right?
Hmm?
Like it's not a like people keep talking. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I don't give a shit because I think it just looks like Overwatch with a slight upgrade. But it's still Overwatch 2. When I play Modern Warfare 2, I'm going to have to level from one again. I don't just show up and unlock, level 50 with 10th prestige because I played previous Call of Duties. So, like, in 100 matches, I'm going to be honest, ain't even shit. If you really play a multiplayer game, like 100 matches ain't shit. Like, I could get that shit in a weekend. When I was really into COD, oh, it would have been on. So 100 matches, like, sounds crazy, but that's really nothing in the grand scheme of the game. So no, I don't really think that's a big deal at all. It's a brand new game. Like you have to imagine you were going to start from scratch. Um, like people should know. I mean, people know better now. Uh, it's like if Destiny 3 ever actually becomes a thing. No, I don't expect all my clothes and all my colors and all the shit that was in Destiny 2 to come with me. No, it's Destiny 3, motherfucker.
But
Like
Destiny,
six games.
Destiny is different from Overwatch. Overwatch, what, 18, 20 characters
No,
compared
but
to this.
what I'm saying is like stuff like people, because I know part of the thing people are most likely complaining about, right? Like a lot of people have invested like years into the original Overwatch, right?
Hmm.
So like 100, like I said, 100 matches is nothing, right? But I know other people's concerns is stuff like skins and all the other
Yeah,
stuff they spent
precisely.
money on.
That's what I'm concerned about. Cause if
Yeah,
you need to buy them or unlock, like, I would believe it.
no, but that's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to buy them. You don't have to buy characters in the game. But what I'm saying is like this is a new game. This is Overwatch 2. All your skins that you bought, you know, in what the fuck is it? Cold War, Call of Duty Cold War are not going to show up magically in Modern Warfare 2. These are both completely online games, right? Like they don't transition. Some of the characters look similar and stuff. They're completely different character models, different size scaling. There's a bunch of different stuff that's to this new game, right? That's what it's not Overwatch 1.6 or Overwatch 2.0, the update. It's Overwatch 2. That's why I don't have a problem with it. But if it
Hmm.
was, yeah, if we were just on this constant update train, which is what some people are obviously complaining about, then yeah, sure. Like the 10-year plan for Halo, right? I mean, obviously that doesn't look like it's happening, but um, the whole idea was to let people, instead of coming out with a game and a game and a game, the idea was we're going to just keep giving you more and new content. Basically the way that we've argued 2K should be doing for years, right? Basically you get a roster update. You pay for an update rather than a new game, but of course 2K is not going to do that because they know all these people are straight suckers, and they're going to pay $100 to $200 when they put Michael Jordan on the cover. And they're also going to invest for virtual currency again, another $100 or something, because half these people, that's the only game they play. So they literally dump all their money that we spend on various different games into this one thing. So all these games are built to maximize the economy. I don't think the way that they're doing it in this case is bad, because like I said, it's Overwatch 2, not 2.0. It's not an update. It is a completely new game. That's it. Now, whether or not I personally feel that it's a completely new game is another story, because I think that shit looks like Overwatch 2.0. But that's not what they calling it, and that's not what it is. So
Hmm. Gotcha. Morgan.
I mean, I don't really have any opinion on this.
Hmm. Cause you don't care
Yeah,
about it. Gotcha.
no.
Weeb.
I second that opinion.
Okay.
I did
Then
kind of say everything. No, I wasn't very fair.
I'm
No.
just gonna move on then. Um. So I'm not fan of the whole what's called phone number. As for unlocking your stuff, hey, up to you to decide if you're gonna continue to play the game or not. If it was me, I would be pissed if I invested so much in the characters and then I need to unlock them all over again. Like, I would have understood it if it was a different game. What I mean by that is they're going a different setting or whatsoever. But I'm pretty sure it's just gonna be to 1.5 game. So I
I
don't
mean, like I
understand.
said,
Yeah?
I ain't gonna say it because I know people that are stupid big fans of this franchise.
And they
Like,
don't care?
and I'm not gonna say they don't care, but at the same time, like that's what I'm saying. Like these people literally play. They play in a way that you can't even imagine, because none of us currently play a game the way that these people like. I know a streamer, literally she only plays Overwatch.
Okay, so she live, eat, breathe that shit. I got you.
Yeah,
So
a
she is
hundred
gonna have.
matches is happening. Like she probably took a week off for this shit to
Okay.
launch.
So in
She'll have
100
100
matches
matches in a day.
in a day. Got you, got you,
Yeah.
got you. Okay, okay. Um, the next topic is going to be, well, I wanted this conversation to have what happened with
Gamer MD.
Gamer MD, but sadly he is not here. But let's start. So we start with Tencent. Tencent is reportedly switching its acquisition strategy and aggressively seeking to own majority or controlling stakes in overseas gaming companies. So, apparently, this is information. No, never mind. I can't say anything. All I will say is this. Um, Tencent is meaning business now. And if we think them buying studios was big a deal, now they're focusing on publishers, the way it sounds. I think they already have more shares in FromSoft in Kodokawa than PlayStation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't remember who has the most shares. I know they both have a
I
decent size
remember they
though.
have shares, but I remember reading Tencent have more. But hey,
Tencent does have more shares.
I think I forgot genuinely about it, so that's why I'm
She
asking.
just told you. She said yes.
Oh, sorry, I misheard you. Thank you very much.
Hmm.
So it's interesting what's gonna happen now with Tencent stepping in, and Bethesda is gone. Activision, real talk, I don't see it going through, especially after Stadia. Um, let's say Activision stays, Blizzard stays. Do you think they're gonna go for that, or do you think they're go? So apparently, Ubisoft teamed up with um, Tencent to prevent being bought by Saudi Arabia, which is another conversation we're gonna have. Do you think Tencent now gonna grab either Ubisoft or maybe EA or Take Two? Or heck, I have no idea the legality of it, nor how big both companies are, but can Tencent buy Sony or PlayStation?
No, I don't think so.
Can you elaborate?
I think we lost Viper, by the way. But um, don't know exactly the market cap at Tencent, but in terms of revenue, um, yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing it. And the thing is, obviously, Sony is protected in the sense that these large Japanese companies have taken measures to prevent them from being bought by anybody big enough to buy up their shares. So, they have this cross-share holding structure where uh, these large companies hold each other's shares in a bank so that, you can never really get a controlling interest in that company. Um, so that would make it very difficult. But I'm not entirely sure what the market cap is of Tencent, but um, I think they're too close together in terms of size that at least in the market cap or at least in revenue in gaming, that this would actually be possible. Certainly, Ubisoft is pretty cheap. Comparison is like I think 2 or 3 billion. I mean, they could be bought by anybody in that regard, but I don't think the entire idea is that Ubisoft doesn't want to be bought, so that's why they're going into a partnership with Tencent. So I don't think it's likely that Tencent is going to buy Ubisoft because that's counter to the entire point of that partnership. I don't know if they're going to buy any publisher because of. I think there's going to be some issues there, them trying to acquire that. And I think there's again what's left, right? The Japanese publishers are likely going to be difficult to acquire. I think also Sony has invested heavily in Square Enix. I think also Kalakawa, which generally is done also prevent these companies from being bought by rival corporations. And EA, Take-Two are pretty big. I don't know what the budget would be, but I know it's a different conversation, but I know the Saudi Arabia investment fund was basically insufficient to buy EA or Take-Two. So the only non-Japanese developers they could or publishers they could buy was Ubisoft and the Embracer Group. And the Embracer Group, I'm not sure because it's called a group, so it's an investment fund basically. So either it could either mean they want to sell this at some point, or they're planning to. They have their own plans and they do not want to sell. So, I mean, yeah, never say never, but I'm a bit skeptical on any major publisher getting bought by anybody at this point in time.
Innate?
I'm gonna be real. We pretty much said it. I agree with what we've said, 100%. I mean, I don't really see anything else coming out of it, in regards to what he said. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much how things are going right now.
So you don't see any big change happening?
Yeah, not right now. I mean, for me, it would have to be a Japanese studio, and I just don't see that happening. There's just so many complications with that right now. Market ebb and flow, the way the markets are literally out of control right now. Everything is down to hell and back. Currency exchanges all over the damn place. It's just everything's a mess right now. Like I don't see at least a Japanese company, the government looking to lose any of them or any of the money coming into them by allowing any of them an out, because that they have them there paying their taxes and all the other stuff that they're paying, as opposed to trying to allow another company to come in and take one of their more prominent companies. I don't see that happening. So, yeah, I mean, I can't see anything else besides the biggest change is whatever happens with this Activision deal. To be honest,
We're gonna talk it because that's a
yeah.
conversation linked to Google Stadia.
Yeah. So I think that's your biggest potential change right now. Like that being in limbo is causing everyone else to be like, what should we do? I think you might see some smaller stuff, but like major
Do you think
publishers.
this is why
Yeah.
PlayStation is yet to announce an acquisition of Square Enix or this or that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to happen with this deal because they if they announce tomorrow that they bought Square, they come to an agreement to buy Square Enix, like Microsoft's gonna be like, look at them, look, see, they did it too, look, like Microsoft is playing that,
Petty.
that petty. Look at what they did. Sibling. Shit that siblings do. Look at them. And it's like, no, I'm still looking at you. Because you already let's not negate the fact that, like we said, Microsoft bought like 8 or 9 studios prior to Bethesda, and then Bethesda came with like 11 of them bitches, and then not only studios but IPs. Like like that were previously everywhere, which and then now they're like, hey, we also want essentially the biggest publisher on the block because we got the money to do it. And people think all it takes is the money, and that's the problem with standard consumer level understanding about how this stuff works. just because you have the money doesn't mean you could purchase it. It's not a consumer level transaction. Like, because I have the money, I can go buy a Ferrari right now, right? You know what I mean? Like, a used one anyway. Because that's a funny fact. You can't just buy a Ferrari. So that's another example of a thing that you can't just buy, right? Ferrari has to like your ass. Ferrari has to feel like you'd be a good owner of a Ferrari before they let you do it. And if you do anything during the course of the time that you own this Ferrari that is not within, that is not within their liking, they may send your ass a cease and desist and revoke your damn Ferrari. You see what I'm saying? So like everything is not like, hey, I got $3,000. I'm gonna go buy this really nice TV. That's what people. that is the extent of the understanding right now of the majority of the Xbox camp's understanding. Their fan base seem to have it. That is the extent of their understanding as far as this upcoming deal goes, or any changes. Right? Hey, I got the money. Let me do it. That's not how it works. So that's why I don't see a lot of stuff happening right now, because this deal is kind of blocking everything and holding everything outside of smaller acquisitions. Which is why you saw a bunch of little ones from the Embracer group, right? While all this shit was happening, Embracer was like, yeah, we're going to take these like 7 little homies over here and we just going to run. Not like, just ignore us. No, like half the people didn't even know what the hell those companies made. And that's what they like. So now they're going to take them and turn them into companies, and you're going to know what they're going to make. And that's what a company should be doing, right? That's the only reason you should be getting some of these people, is to bring them on board to make something better, to be better. But that is not what Microsoft is doing. Microsoft is just looking to gobble shit up and, put it under their banner, because that is what Microsoft, not Xbox, Microsoft does. And that is what Microsoft has done for years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We.
So yeah, no. He already spoke.
Oh, sorry, Morgan.
I mean, I agree with both of them. So
He's zoning out. I did you.
I mean, it's honestly.
they
It's
really
okay
said
to say
everything.
you zone out. It's okay, because we're covering.
No, they really said everything.
Okay, yeah, trust me, because real talk, I would rather nothing to cover but genuine game news, but this is the industry that we're in, and I'm not a fan of it, but that's the reality of things. 1 second. I'm making sure, because Viper had to step down for a bit and he's coming back, so I'm making sure that he can join.
He's already in here.
What? Oh, so then this is late. Sorry, no. Let me.
Like, Omar, what are you looking at?
No, let me explain. I am looking at the YouTube page. So
Yes,
the YouTube page is late. I need to update it. Only now I seen him in it. Viper, what you thought?
All right, so I heard what was the I just need a word. What was the word? What was the topic? I heard it when I was doing what I needed to do.
Okay, so the topic is Tencent gearing up for a new up. So let me say what I said, which way wasn't there when I said it. I said, can they buy PlayStation or Sony? And I'm being serious about that, because I don't know the legality of it and everything in between. And I'm genuinely curious, because if you want to make a big move and you're Tencent and you got some money, then you absolutely would head to Sony or PlayStation.
Yeah, but I don't think Sony or PlayStation will be willing unless 3 or 4 years from now they go day and date and find themselves in the same boat as Microsoft. Then they might say, "All right, yeah, we want to be bought by you." But as of right now, in their current state, I don't think.
Okay, then let me ask you this: is there no way of such a thing as Apple takeover?
Uh,
Or doesn't
yeah.
work with this? Because again,
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
from the legal
Oh,
aspect because I don't understand nothing. But apparently, according to people, which people can say, the Tencent Ubisoft quote unquote collaboration almost feels more like a hostile takeover. So I'm curious.
well, they could do that if they want to, but they can't force the employees to stay. So
I
if they
mean,
if they did a hostile takeover over of PlayStation, all the people here that were helping them make records amounts of money can say, "Oh, that's it. We're leaving. We're going somewhere else." And guess what they got? A shell of a company. So you can hostile take over anything if you want, but you got to have workers that are willing to accept that hostile takeover.
so
I know.
you can't have to take over and buy out contracts to
Yeah,
make sure that they stay.
my company was actually hostile take. My company used to be called Technical Innovation. They got bought out. They told me we merged, but our name changed, so that means we got bought out. We got bought out by a company named Diversified. Don't you know about 60% of those people left, and those are some of the highest ranking people in the company. Our company actually kind of became a shell of itself. We didn't have our good workers anymore.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Gotcha. So what you thought?
Oh, eh,
Okay, so put then the whole conversation about Sony Tencent maybe Tencent acquiring Sony aside. We dealt with that. The whole
okay,
concept now of Tencent gearing up for uh, being a big player in the industry now. They wanna be a big player. What's your thought on that? Do you think they're gonna do something? And I make a fantastic point, which is right now nothing gonna happen. Companies and people are waiting on the Bethesda Activision deal and see what's gonna come from that,
right.
and then we're gonna see the move start happening. So what you
But
thought?
using our imaginations, let's put the Activision thing aside for now, because yes, they are going to be waiting for that because they can't wait to point their fingers. But with the Activision thing aside, um, if Tencent's big enough, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. My whole ordeal is as long as you don't adversely affect the company, like for example Microsoft claiming publishers is affecting the way games are being made on that side of the fence. And as long as the gaming, or as long as the companies aren't negatively adversely affected, they need to continue with business as usual, pumping out the games, doing what they normally do. Then
So
Tencent,
basically, you're saying because they don't have any actual hardware platform to be exclusive, it's not gonna change anything.
I wouldn't think it would. I wouldn't think it would change anything unless Tencent is a hated company, which I haven't heard that.
They absolutely are hate cops because they are from China.
Who said that?
Hmm?
Is that, did I miss that? Is that a thing? That is
Yeah,
real?
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really want them to own anything because,
Yep.
Oh,
the whole
this. Where was I at? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
China crazy, China, this, that, and third. Whatever, things people say about it.
It's politics related,
Yeah,
so we're not
yeah.
gonna go
So,
there right now.
They're trying to remove the stigma by not screwing up in the companies they already own now. And to be fair, they haven't done anything yet to warrant that reputation other than where the company is based, but we'll see where that goes.
excuse my ignorance. Is the company owned by the government or are they own entity?
Whether they owned by the government or not, people think it as this. They're making money
Uh huh.
that is going toward China. That's how they see it.
Oh, so
No,
people are
it's the
spending their
the,
own.
the fact that the Chinese government has a lot of pull on these companies, because if they get out of line, they're going to arrest the CEO or whatever, right? So that
They've
yeah,
done that a lot.
yeah, they've done that a lot. They have done that with a lot of successful Chinese companies, like the CEO of Alibaba. Uh, when he became too big for his breeches, they pull you down. They make sure that they know that you know who's in charge. So yeah,
Yeah,
there is a legitimate concern there that Tencent is under the control of the Chinese government.
yeah, and there is also another almost like the thinking of Chinese government are using Tencent to change the mindset of how people view China, and that's why with like for example, if now Tencent own, let's say, Take Two, then people are gonna be involved with Take Two because they want to play their game, but then still by China, by Tencent. So then China quote unquote economy will grow with that, and then the mindset of what people perceive to see China is going to change. That's what people are afraid of when it comes to Tencent, basically.
Well, making it seem like they are changing and actually changing are two different things. Uh, are we sure it's just going to be for show, or are they actually going to conduct some real change?
Mm,
Well, hold on. Are you expecting that Tencent is going to cause any change in China itself?
Ah,
no, 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 no. Basically, rather that China is using Tencent to change the image how people
I'm
view
asking
China.
Viper
I know that, but that's the point. When you say changing the image, you mean just like a false pretense, but the shit's still fucked up underneath.
Yeah,
Everybody use now. Because the thing that I was saying was, yeah, it could look like a false pretense with things fucked up underneath, and that's a bad thing. But how do we not know that they're not actually going for the good thing? That they're actually trying to make that change?
well, we don't know. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Well, no, we do. There's absolutely no reason to assume that they're actually gonna make any changes. That's the point where they're changing percent. Again, this is Omar's theory, so I don't know if they're actually planning to do anything like that. But the point is that if they're going to use that as a sort of way, create some called propaganda or promoting the country, uh, you're not. That doesn't mean they're going to effectuate any change, right? They're just going to polish up the image, right? And yes, of course, there's definitely some incentive from the United States, from Europe, to also portray China in the worst possible light possible, because of course there are an emerging superpower,
Mhm.
possibly can rival the United States at some point. Depends on who you ask, because there's also people who say that that's never going to happen because their economy might collapse, right? So we don't know, but the thing is, what we know of some of the things that they're currently doing. Yeah, they're sure. Some things. If you ask people in China, they will probably say, it's not as bad as people tell you to. On the other hand, they're also making a lot of moves that concern people, like how they are aggressively doing military exercises to threaten Taiwan, which they consider, basically a rogue province, right?
Uh-huh.
How they're treating the Uyghur population, the Muslim minority in the country. They're putting them in essentially extermination camps, which is it's not exactly the same, but there are they're committing a certain cultural genocide there. They're trying to basically eradicate that culture. So yeah, there are a lot of things wrong there in that country, and that's not gonna disappear if Omar's theory is true that they're gonna use Tencent to sort of polish that image. And again, like I say, there's always new ones there. There's always things that are exaggerated, but there are definitely some things that are most certainly true. There is no debate about them. We have independent sources that can confirm that. So these things happen, and yes, that's also what I said. Like this, China's essentially sort of a hybrid capital, sort of is a communist country, but they have embraced capitalism because capitalism is not an ideology. It's a way how you run your economy, and the problem they're facing is probably the same that the United States is facing, and probably every other developed country, is that corporations, once they get big enough, they will exert control. They can, they give money to super PACs, etc., right? And they can influence policy. And I think China doesn't want to get into that position, so they want to keep all the power centralized with the Communist Party, with the government, with their president, and that's why they're exerting control over all these companies. So if they feel like a CEO of a company is becoming too powerful, is no longer listening to their directives, yeah, they're gonna arrest you. They're gonna put you into so-called re-education camp and make sure that you fall in line. And
So
I think there is the sort of fear is indeed there that China might use these companies also to create propaganda, but also to make sure that everything falls in line. Like we've seen cases of games that were made by Chinese developers that were essentially banned because they were critical of the Chinese government, right? So they don't tolerate any criticism, and those kind of things. Yeah, you might find in games or developer studios that are acquired by a Chinese publisher. So there is the fear that this will affect their work. Like they can no longer freely express. They have to always check. Is this going to be allowed? By the big red overseers. Yeah. Is it going to fly, or are they going to stick me in a re-education camp if I don't comply, right? That kind of thing. So
so
that's a fear there.
then
Hmm.
there's a twofold question here. Um, with the companies that Tencent may be looking to try and acquire, um, if the workers or the CEOs or whoever is part of these companies know what they're dealing with as it pertains to Tencent and their Chinese government, um, they they don't have to be bought, and they can bail out or whatever, hostile takeover, however you want to call it. But my other question was, do we know for certain, is it the Tencent CEOs that are actually wanting to go through with this, or is it the government telling the Tencent CEOs, hey, can you do this over there right quick? Does anybody know for certain, or are we just speculating?
We don't know for certain, but say from if we rationally analyze this, Tencent is of course the moves that Microsoft is making everybody nervous, and Tencent usually makes these partnerships with other publishers or developers. They buy stakes into them. They're financing them. They're not outright buying a lot of developers. And they're concerned, of course, that Microsoft makes the move. They're buying publishers. They're going to lose that access. They're going to lose those partnerships. So uh, that's why they're making these moves, that sort of more direct partnership with
Okay,
Ubisoft, yeah, to counter that. So, and that makes sense from a business perspective. So, I don't think you need to assume that they were told, yeah, by the Chinese government to do that. But that there's always going to be, they're always going to be checking them, controlling them, and there's always concerns that that's kind of the problem with phone companies like Huawei. Like it's several countries, like I think the United States as well, and UK and whatever, they're banned because they're afraid that the Chinese government is using those networks, right, to listen in, right. I mean, there's lots of mean, I used to work in a corporate environment, and they would tell you, like, if you're getting a USB stick gifted by a Chinese company, yeah, fucking throw
Yeah,
that away. Don't
right.
put that in your laptop.
I've heard that before.
Yeah,
All right. Well, thanks for clearing that up.
Okay.
sure.
By the way, shout out to Mr. Despair and TKRDS. And shout out to Link. Um, okay. So let me switch gears. Um, Saudi Arabia now want to invest, I think, $13 billion in the industry, and people are not happy about that. Um, I'm gonna put the politics aside, and I'm gonna think that's a good thing if they do it correctly. What I mean by that is I would love for Arabic representation in video games. Like for example, that Assassin's Creed game, I would have loved to have been playing as a hijabi or just a Muslim character and see how they go between being a Muslim and still killing, because that would be very, like, that by itself alone would be the definition of peak writing for me. Um, I would love something like that. I would love to play something like from the Middle East back in the day. And yeah, I'm genuinely curious what they're gonna do. But knowing what they want, they're gonna absolutely grab a 2K or what's called EA and call it a day. I'm gonna
They
start with
can.
you, Nate. Sorry, what did you say?
They can't, because the budget that they have is too low to buy either of those companies.
Yeah,
The
but
market
I
cap is
mean,
too high.
I'm pretty sure they can up the budget if needed.
Well,
This is Saudi Arabia talking about.
I was told Capcom is probably the only possibility.
Who said that?
That was from a podcast earlier today.
Capcom is 6 bill.
Yeah, I know, and they have
Square
13.
Square Enix is what, 13 bill or something like that? 15 bill?
That's assuming it's actually for sale. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
got you.
we're just trying to figure out what their budget is.
Yeah.
Who they
Okay, so let's be real. The
I
budget.
think the biggest problem is like people are assuming they're just going to go out anyway, right? One of the big things is that the Middle East itself is allegedly, based on stuff that I've seen, a largely untapped market because of a lot of the limitations that are put in place that are being gradually societally removed, and they're discovering so many talented people in all these different fields um, that I think they may have a pool to pull together from there to create some new studios and some new experiences, something like what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, like for example, if you would pour, and I'm going to pour the political route with it, $1 trillion in, for example, Lebanon and Syria, you would and give them the ability to go study and become what's called game developers. I bet
Exactly.
you a lot would want that.
Well, it's
Would
not,
want to
and I
do
say
that.
that because it's not only that, right? Like, and I forget where all the lines, because, like I said, like the same way you don't know where, you know, Augusta, Georgia is here. I don't remember Lebanon and Syria and all that. I don't remember where
Jordan.
all. Yeah, I don't remember where all that is, right? But I remember specifically watching a thing where they were talking about um when some of the women would leave one of the countries and go to literally the neighboring country, they could drive, learn about engineering and all this shit. And like one of the women is like the lead engineer for now, like the United Emirates, like Formula One team or some shit. But it's like they
Oh,
never
okay.
would have known she was that brilliant and that good if she never got the opportunity. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I get you.
Like,
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
she's a beast because she was able to get out of the country that wanted to essentially suppress
That's
women to own,
absolutely Saudi Arabia. But I
Yeah.
thought they lift that you're not allowed to drive now. So
Yeah, well,
but
that's what I'm saying. Like, gradually, as
oh yeah,
as things
because she
change.
proved them wrong, they lifted up. You could think of. So I got you. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is what I am looking always at this from a glass half full in a way, because that for me is very
hmm
hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I think
'Cause-
I think why not develop, in yourself. Like, I remember watching something recently when it was talking about they basically explained how rich like one of the princes were or something, for I think it's the Prince of Dubai or something. But they explained how his money actually works, right? It's so much money that it's complicated. Like, it's not actually all his. Like, he is rich as hell himself, but a large portion of it, like you said, is like an investment. Like, it's an investment like fund, so it's meant to be used to further develop their businesses and, franchise endeavors into different things, which is what it seems like this is for. And that's why I'm like, if you got all this potentially untapped talent here, you could really come out with something out the gate, and create something from the ground up, which is something that I feel like they seem to like to do. Creating something from home, because that's what a lot of the projects are invested in. Yeah, they're globally recognized, and they have their hands in everything, kind of like globally, but everything is to come back to strengthen, the home country, so to speak.
Okay. I
So
have a
yeah.
question. Have you
hmm
ever had anyone here heard of the game Unearthed Trial of Ibn Battuta?
Mm-mm.
Anyone? So
Mm-mm.
this was developed by uh, Muhammad Khalil. So one person, and
Mm-hmm.
produced and what's called what do you call it? So you have developer and published by Semaphore, which is, let me guess what they made. Cause I wanna focus on this because it's very key for what I'm about
Mm-hmm.
to say. Um, so Semaphore is a publisher, a multi-platform publisher based in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We develop games, simulation, and virtual reality applications as well as, okay, so blah 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 blah. Let's call it blah 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 blah. So they made a few games. So they made no, never mind that. Just Google being stupid. I know they made Unearthed. So Unearthed is basically a horrible, and I repeat, horrible uh, copy and paste of Uncharted. I forgot which one
Yeah.
Uncharted, but here's the difference. But the main character had a female, and she was a hijabi. So, despite the fact that the game is horrible, they still brought representation with it, and
Yeah.
and they brought also lore with it that you can explore, something
So
like that.
you like the a lot of some of the ideas they brought to the
I like
table.
the. I never played the game, but I watched the gameplay. They made almost like I remember seeing it in a conference or something like that. I forgot where on TV. So yeah, it's a copy and paste of Uncharted, and it's a horrible copy. I'm not a fan of that. However, again, if you do it right, you can open doors with this one. You can absolutely open doors with this one. But I fear they're gonna go for the basic what's called catch grab mentality.
Yeah.
That's my fear. Morgan, what's your thought?
To be honest, I don't know enough about Saudi Arabia to give an opinion about it, so I'm
Gotcha.
just gonna skip.
Okay. Viper? Interesting. I understand. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
Weeb?
Well, I'm not happy with the idea that any government is trying to directly acquire a publisher, because governments, they always have their own agenda. You don't acquire one for no reason. Yeah, we had this discussion, I think, on Twitter, where I'm concerned, at least with whoever they buy, that's going to be bad for them, because they're going to be under a regime that has maybe different ideas, but they want to show and not want to show than what their own talents want, their own developers stand for, and what they want to basically develop. And of course, you have always the option to leave. So I'm did this, which is generally still easier to said than done. But in this market, you probably there's a lot of demand for developers, so you probably have a chance to move if you're not happy with the direction the company is going. But yeah, I kind of prefer. I mean, I'm not happy with this acquisition wave at all. I mean, I think
Me neither. No one is happy with this one. It's just the
this
reality of that we're
consolidation.
living in.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, but we can still say it's generally not a positive development. And yeah, and yeah, I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, we can essentially say Microsoft started this. You could argue that maybe this was inevitable, but certainly this has triggered, other
Yeah. This is
interested
literally
parties
uh,
growing.
a trigger effect. I agree with you.
Yeah,
And this
but
is
yeah, I
why I
mean,
said that's the
I'm not.
reality we're living in.
Yeah, but I'm not really looking forward to the idea that Saudi Arabia is going to own a major publisher. So, I mean, yes, of course, I would happy that we're seeing development talent coming from the region, and that we're getting more gains from that, certainly. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's the intent there, by a publisher. So yeah, we can get that development know-how and capacity there. I think this is more of I think generally is more definitely sort of a money thing, right? But we need to spend money somewhere. Gaming is big. Gaming is the biggest entertainment market, and I also see them, with the direction that the world is going, move away from fossil fuels much faster than they probably had anticipated. They're gonna invest in whatever else is there to make sure that they can keep making money. So I think that's part of this too. I mean, I don't think they just decide to do this out of nowhere. And yes, yeah, like I said, Microsoft has opened the door there and has shown has renewed interest, I think, in the gaming industry. Think, okay, yeah, now it's basically the time to start buying. And this is one of the effects. Again, we don't know. They have uttered the intention, right? We don't know if they're actually going to pull through, because we don't know which one they want to acquire. And like you see, like Ubisoft, it's one they could acquire based on the clearly based on the budget they have, but they've already taken measures by partnering with Tencent. So That's possibly going to happen with other smaller publishers that might be in the crosshairs, because in the end nobody wants to be bought out, be the victim of a hostile takeover, right? Like I said, yeah, sure, if they can up the budget, sure, but based on what they've said, at least what we know, EA and Take-Two are off the table because their market value is higher than the budget they have allotted for their investment.
Gotcha. I think you were the first one in 8, right? Or do you still want to
Yeah.
say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I really tried, but MD can't make it. He's not answering.
All good.
So, well, I'm not a drinker, so I'm just gonna what's called take a fire what's called something on fire and lit Stadia with it. But yeah, if anyone wanna pour one for Stadia, Stadia is dead.
Fuck Stadia. I'm glad they're gone. Goodbye.
Stadia is
Exactly.
done
Get
for.
rid of the rest of that cloud shit too.
I forgot. I wanna go to the status of stuff, but I genuinely want. If you can, weave. I just wanna know if you can very quick share with us what happened to the Disco Elysium studio.
To the what studio?
The Disco Elysium, the studio that did Disco Elysium.
Apparently a lot of the creatives left the company or were forced out of the company.
Any idea why?
What I read, it was a money thing, which isn't very specific, but so it doesn't seem to be a problem with the people, but it seems to be a problem with the company. And it's pretty sour, considering that this is combined with the announcement that they're going to make a sequel, but without any of the actual creators, or at least the lead creators.
Not gonna feel like a sequel then. I got you.
Yeah, that would definitely concern me. I don't think it's gonna be up to the standard that the first one set.
Gotcha. Okay, now back to pouring a good one for Stadia. Stadia is dead. D-A... Oh, dead. Ah, sorry. Yeah, dead. Dead
This should
and
be
stable.
a warning, a blazing sign to all of these multi-billion and multi-trillion-dollar conglomerates who feel like they can just dip their toes in gaming. Like, it doesn't take much. We just need to pour multiple millions of dollars into it, and we can just get it.
I have it here sorted, so oh no, even the person I was talking with, he shared information, so I'm gonna use his. So apparently, according to Jason Schreier, Google literally paid, I think, between the $10 billion or something like that, just to grab games like Odyssey and Red Dead Redemption 2 and put them on Stadia.
Of course they did.
So they absolutely didn't come with a plan. They came with money.
This is what happens when you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
And not only that, so here, I reported this last year at Bloomberg, but the amount of money Google spent to get games on Stadia is so shocking that I still can hardly believe it. Even after corroborating with multiple sources, tens of millions of dollars per game for Red Dead Redemption 2, Assassin's Creed, etc.
That's not what doomed them. Paying all that money for them games, that's not what doomed them. What doomed them was when you're in gaming,
No,
you have to have a reason for somebody to buy your fucking game. That
yeah.
means you
So
need first party studios. You don't
they
have
that's what I'm about to say. So apparently
that.
there was. I
Go
just
ahead. I'm
want to
sorry.
say one thing. There was, well, you can call it a rumor, call it whatever you want, call it a rumor that they were interested in Bethesda, and Microsoft snatched them. So
Damn.
their second idea was to go for Activision, and we see what happened to that. And
Oh,
remember,
Phil beat him to the punch. Oh man.
even before then, they shut down their exclusive department
Mm-hmm.
with what's her name running it.
Jade Raymond
No, I forgot Jade Raymond was running it, but someone else was working there. Shannon
and Stella. Yeah.
from Santa Monica Studio
Mm-hmm.
on PlayStation. She left Santa Monica and went to Google. I'm pretty sure it was a hefty money. Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna lose
That Google money.
an an a studio like Santa Monica that was about to make God of War 2, a game that won Game of the Year on the biggest stage, to just go to mere Stadia for ambition. Nah, money got to be involved with that. So
That and
she.
she was tired from after everything of God of War. She just wanted something new.
Oh yeah. She absolutely sounded. If you watch the Rising of Kratos, she was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely having a rough time with that
Yep.
development. So my question becomes then: did Stadia kill Stadia, or did Microsoft help kill Stadia? I'm gonna start with an 8.
I mean, they said so. So, I mean, it's largely obvious how Stadia was looking to kind of move in the industry, investing, making these smaller investments to guarantee that these games come to their platform.
They tried to do
Um,
the 360. They pulled the 360.
yeah, essentially.
Oh, 1 second. MD.
Yeah. Well, just a side note.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Nate. So you can finish. He was done.
So he's
uh,
gonna join. Let's go. I'm gonna invite him, and then he's
yeah.
gonna have the ability to talk before any of you. I'm joking. What you wanna say, Viper?
Oh, one other thing, and it was what Porter Rock said on Mooch's channel, is with cloud gaming, there wasn't a big enough need to want to play that. To go from one type of medium to another, you need a big enough want or a big enough attraction for people to want to jump ship from one and move to another. Like, for example, moving from cartridges to CDs or Blu-rays or whatever. Of course, those Blu-rays or CDs can store a lot more data, and that means a lot more games, bigger games can be made, and that's why people were so ready to ditch cartridges and go to CDs. You need to have, and I know Stadia had their infrastructure was pretty good when it came to latency and whatnot, but that just wasn't enough because they made you pay for like to actually play in 4K. So uh, you need a big enough jump in technology, and the want need to be there for people to leap onto your new thing. And cloud gaming is just not there. Frankly, I don't think it'll ever get there.
Yeah. Reselling those games for full price was not it. Like at all.
And we have a newcomer. Gamer MD, you made it.
He might. Yeah, he might be
Oh.
struggling.
Oh, I brought him in. Okay. I was wondering what happened.
Yeah,
Gamer
there you go.
MD, you made it. Thank you for coming through, man.
I think he's just suggesting.
Wait.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey,
up?
man. How are you?
I'm exhausted. How are you guys?
We're fine. Glad that you were able to make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um. So yeah, where do we start?
Stadia.
Stadia. What's your thought on what happened? Who do you blame, and what do you see happening from here with Stadia?
My whole entire take on the Stadia thing is, there was no marketing of any kind. They didn't have any exclusives, and it was one of those scenarios where basically it almost seemed like it was a glorified tech demo. And they were spending millions of dollars per title to be able to secure them for the platform. So I think that they just kind of lost what they were. There wasn't a good firm like, hey, this is what we should be doing, right? Like from my standpoint, if they had been more of like a technology solution for somebody, say for example, if they had made a partnership with Sony, and they were like, hey, we created this technology, we want to use your platform exclusively for this technology, then I think Stadia would have done amazingly well.
But without PlayStation allowed it.
Well, like I said, just as an example, I don't know if they really would.
Gotcha in that
Well,
sense.
Yeah.
what he's saying is they didn't have a company direction. It was moving every which way. Let's do this. Let's do that. They were just pulling shit out of thin air to try to
Yep.
figure out what
But
could happen.
they were trying to follow Microsoft with the 360 motto.
But that's the
Remember
point.
how 360 Microsoft paid for exclusivity deals?
They were very disorganized in how they wanted to go about. Normally, when you got a company, your company has a mission statement, and that mission statement is followed to a T. We don't know what the hell their mission statement was.
I mean, that just shows how unserious they took the gaming sector. They didn't really go in there with a plan. They just thought, oh, it's easy.
Yeah,
we can just
have
make
enough
this
money, so we'll just go up.
exactly. We
how
can just
can
make this
you?
basic ass MMO or a basic ass battle royale, and people will just flood into it. Like, yeah, that's just
Fact.
that's all we got to do.
But how can you be $1 trillion? I don't know if there's billion or trillion, but
They're a $1 trillion.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
How can you
$1
be $1 trillion company and have such a big oversight?
Because you're going from tech to working with creatives, and they don't understand the intricate pieces that go into making a game. They just think it's simple. We can just slap this thing like, oh look, Epic made Fortnite, right? That's an easy game. Look how basic that game is. We can do that. Like that's how they view gaming, and they thought like all we have to do is just hire a bunch of vets who have made games, and we'll let them run it. We'll let them decide what to do. But we won't, help them. We'll put red tape everywhere. We won't, we have a certain structure in the way that we as Google run our departments, but it's not the same way that gaming companies and gaming studios run their stuff. And they don't know how to like just nurture talent. They don't know how to nurture a gaming studio and give these creatives the things they need to make amazing games. They just like, okay, we're going to pour money into it, get some vets, and it's just going to work out. It's going to magically form into a successful gaming company. And that's why they failed.
I mean, look at Microsoft, right? Like, people want to shit on Microsoft all the time, but then I'm like, look at Google. Look at what they did with Stadia. I mean, for the fact that Microsoft is still in the game means that they have learned the hard way, but they have learned, hey, these are things that you can do. These are things that you can't do. These are the things that your consumers absolutely need. And so, yeah, I mean, it took them an entire console generation to catch back up to potentially being okay. I don't know how it's all going to pan out. 2023 is the big year for that in my mind's eye. It's like if you don't like release a whole bunch of high quality titles, I think you're pretty much dead in the water. But it's like, Stadia didn't even go that far. I mean, they closed all their own first party studios 2 years ago. And they're like, yeah, we're just going to, I guess, use other people's software, other people's whatever. And when they lost like Jade Raymond and like all these other people, and it's just like, I don't know, it's like, your point that you were making about how they're a tech company first, 100% correct. They had zero vision for what they're going to do. And it's really weird because they had, Phil Phil Harris that was like, he's been in the console game forever, and somehow, granted, he's killed a lot of different projects over time. But you would have figured that he would have known something, right? Like by the time he got to this project about like, hey, how do you actually launch a console? How do you actually get it into people's hands and have software and this, that, and the other? And they didn't do any of the things that I would have figured that he would have known because, the people in this room right now have a pretty good idea of like, hey, what are some things that would, are fundamentals of gaming that you need to have for your console to be successful?
Yeah, an article I read is, a lot of the things that the people who, Google hired, things that they wanted to do, they couldn't because of how much red tape that Google themselves was putting in front of them, that they couldn't, like, they wanted to hire more people, but Google's hiring process, they have like a 6 to 9 month hiring process, and you can't have that when you're trying to build a brand new studio from the ground up. You need to hire all these people, different developers and artists and all that shit, but you have a 6 to 9 month hiring process. Like, how are we supposed to build this studio with that kind of barrier? And then the funding, they weren't getting the funding they needed. Google was being really strict with the type of tech or engines they were using for quote unquote security purposes. Like, it was just like a lot of barriers in their way to getting to even, developing a game, let alone releasing one. So it was just Google themselves were just making it really hard for the people working there to even get anything from the ground up. And there was this one quote that I saw in an article. It said, hold on, let me get it.
Yes,
it was
so
like,
apparently they were working with Kojima.
Oh yeah, they shut him down real quick.
Yep.
They said, "Oh, single player. Oh no, we're not doing that. We can't monetize that."
They shut Kojima down, which is what went now to PlayStation, because Kojima said no. Well, I meant, what's called Google said no.
Yeah, I mean, they were going to give them the next Death Stranding, the sequel to Death Stranding, and they said no. See, that's the problem, because you got non-gaming executives and non-gaming people coming into a sector that they don't know anything about. And it's, this argument's used against Microsoft often. You're just $1 trillion company. You're just throwing your money around. Well, fucking Google just threw all their money around and they didn't get shit. They literally lost their ass on Stadia. In fact, they're giving refunds to all their customers for all the crap that they bought. And I'm just like, damn.
And the developers don't even know if they're getting compensated for the games that they've worked on for Stadia. So it's crazy.
Like, it's all kinds of crazy. So, and it's weird, right? Because it's like now it's like, instead of taking responsibility for the piss poor planning in making Stadia, they're all like, you know what? It really hurts our feelings that Microsoft's going to buy Activision Blizzard, and we think that this is going to totally, like, disrupt the gaming market. I'm like, bitch, you're not even in the gaming market. The fuck do you care? Why are you in?
I was like, they said we're not going down alone, damn it.
Exactly. We're throwing shit. No?
Oh, man.
William, what's your thought?
Another notch in the killed by Google tree, I guess. I mean, I saw this coming in the moment it was announced. I knew some people who were who actually bought into it and even ordered they had this sort of premium edition beginning where you got the controller and some shit, I don't know what it was. Like, I knew this was dead in the water as soon as it was announced. And by the way, Amazon is next because they also have no fucking clue
Absolutely.
what they're doing.
And then Facebook, and then Apple.
Yeah, I mean, and look, the thing is, the gaming market is essentially sort of an oligarchy in a sense, because there are 3 major players that have platforms. It's hard to get in there, certainly, but you also need to know what you're doing, and just thinking that you can throw money around and it will solve itself. And look, the solution, I mean, I'm not convinced that a cloud solution is going to, even if you did it right, is going to get you a foot in the market. certainly you can use it as a way to as complementary to your services, like Sony's doing, like Microsoft is doing. But if you're going to use that, because the entire model of Stadia was completely fucked up, right? I mean, you pay full price for a game that you don't own, that you can only stream. Like, had they done a subscription service, they could have at least competed with those services from Microsoft and Sony. And even then, I mean, if that's the only option you're offering, I mean, the entire idea. I know that it was law like, oh, you don't need the hardware, right? You don't need to have a gaming PC to be able to play the newest games. But I mean, it's never going to work because people want to have the ability to play their games natively. And
Mm-hmm.
for good reason, because you know that streaming is not going to, it's not there yet, right? I mean, it might work for some people, but the infrastructure is not there, that it's not reliable enough. And streaming games is very different than streaming, Netflix TV show, right? The requirements are much lower. And, if I get a glitch in and like watching Stranger Things or whatever, like if I get a frame skip or it crashes or it pauses, okay, big deal, right? I just restart from where I left off. Yeah, try it with a game, right? Try it again when a game crashes or freezes or whatever, and you have to redo everything, or your save game gets corrupted, or you're playing a multiplayer game that's competitive. It's never going to work in the way they think it's going to work. So I'd say I know that people who are very optimistic about it say, okay, it's in the future. This is the future, right? This is going to be how gaming is going to be. I don't think it's ever going to replace native gaming. I think it's going to be complementary to it, but it's also going to be very limited because the requirements for games is also going to be increasing, right? The data requirements, the
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, especially with competitive games, right? You can't have a lot of lag there, uh, and not everything is going to go progressively better, right? I mean, there's always sort of a limit, right, to the curve, the growth curve for like how internet speeds are going to develop, but also the coverage and the will of all these companies who are offering service to actually provide that service, not just the necessary coverage and reliability, but you've seen that you're already seeing that unless you're living in a country that has full net neutrality, that these corporations are going to charge you for this. They're going to uh, have you buy an internet package. And you can use that streaming service, but you're going to pay for it, right? And that sort of asymmetrical way of selling that product, again, it's going to throw up another hurdle because not everybody's willing to pay or can afford to pay for that. So I mean, it's again, um, I don't think anything of value is lost.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Um, Viper, what's your thought?
So back in 2020, when and it was August sometime, I was ditching cable and I was going all subscriptions, and not gaming, but I'm talking about like Netflix, Hulu, and stuff like that. And I was in the Verizon store, and they told me, they said, "Hey, Mr. Patrick, come over here. We'd like to show you this new thing. It's not really new, but it's called the Chromecast Ultra for Google Stadia. Well, why don't you take it and demo this, and we'll see if you." He's like, "You're a gamer, right?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like, demo this, and maybe you might want to walk out of here with one of them. I took one look at that thing and I was like, "Nah, that thing ain't gonna last." I said, "That's cloud gaming." It was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Nah, I'll pass." And so I knew back then when they tried, and he was trying to sell it to me like it was the state of the art and this is the future. And I was looking at him sideways like, no, it's not.
You are
So
already listening to trash by then, eh?
yeah, I could take one look at it and was like, nah. So I knew back then that they were a goner. I actually, uh, now that remember we all had that question where did we think that this deal was going to go through with Activision?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this might be the nail in the coffin,
Yeah,
especially
we're
if
gonna talk about that.
I
But
haven't got.
continue your thought.
Okay, then I'll wait till the next wave because my
Yeah,
next wave,
cause that we definitely going there. But
yeah.
I just wanna have everyone opinion first before we go there, cause that's a conversation on its own. And
Hmm.
that's why I wanted MD here, cause MD had built his entire platform on being platform agnostic. So if MD is going to say it's not gonna be biased, at least so far I know, he tries to not to be, unless it's politically related. Then he is 1000% biased, which I agree with. Nate, what's your thought?
Very true.
Uh, I thought you talking about still the Stadia stuff because I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Over Stadia,
Yeah,
them
all right. I mean, I already spoke on
dying.
that. I mean, essentially, I mean, the main thing is just, I mean, we all know why, right? I mean, one of the key factors that you need to begin with, which Microsoft spent years building up, right, and starting when there was not another major player in the game, right, is you need first party studios. You need that. They had no identity. They were just Google, jumping in the ring with some money and was like, yo, we'll buy up enough shit so people will want to come play over here. And then it turned out to be the more expensive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, give me 2 seconds.
Okay. Toot, 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 toot,
Oh,
toot, toot,
give me one
toot.
second.
Okay. Then
Okay. But
oh,
anyway,
he's back. Okay.
yeah, so the yeah, like I said, I mean they had no identity going on with that, and it was essentially more expensive. Like I told you, it became, you know, you're removing the options, right? One of the game things that gamers love, right? Um, and it's the same thing with these new cloud devices, right? They only run these games via cloud, right? Like you got to have a signal. Like half the time when I take my Switch to actually play on the go, like it's because I have no signal or I'm in an area where it might not be that good or this, that, and the third. Like there's so many complicated reasons for a lot of this stuff, right? And then on top of gaming and paying for the games, you want me to pay monthly, while also depending on my internet and putting even more requirements on my internet. Like it's just there's so many different uh areas where it's like it's just another bill on top of a bill on top of what I was already paying and
Not only
some more.
but single points of failure as well.
Yeah, yeah, like you're just there's too many junctions, right? Like have you ever seen somebody who has like a like they show so many what do you call them? The plugs? What do you call it? The surge
Oh,
protector.
surge
Like a
protectors.
surge protector into a surge protector to a surge protector, and then they finally fix it, and they get the one, and then it's just a big one, and they just
Mm.
go from there, and it's very clean, and it's cleaned up, and it's in a Signum rack, and it looks beautiful, like that. Like it's just one thing, all that stuff's out of the way. Like I said, like you just remove the options. Like I was telling somebody was asking me earlier on Twitter, they were like, "Are you gonna pick up like who's gonna pick up what in October?" And I was like, honestly, I'm probably not gonna pick up anything just like I did in September, because all these games are going to be $29.99 or $14.99 or $24.99, come November, and then I can just pick up all that shit for literally half the price or
We
less.
already seen Soul Hacker 2
Yeah,
going
it's
discount.
already started, and it's going to just get cheaper, right? So like that's what I'm saying. Like I have that option though, right? But it doesn't stop, any of y'all from purchasing it day one or going in day one. Like that's the difference. Like that's a main difference, right? Or you can wait for it to go on sale digitally, or you can pick it up physically, or you can like they're removing all these options, right? And then if my internet goes out, guess what? I don't have to worry about it. I can still play that game because it's a single player game. But if I'm playing a single player game and something is wrong with my internet on any of these devices, I'm fucked. And I'm paying monthly for that shit. Like it's yeah, no. Yeah, so they just had too many loopholes, too much bullshit going on for it to even survive. And like I said, the other thing is the only other reason either one of these other ones survive the way that they do is because that is not the primary source, right? Like Xbox has all this other stuff going on, and then they have cloud. Nvidia is a graphics card company and a server company. That's where they make their money. They also have GeForce Now for the occasional people that want to play it, but they're not depending on it. They were just using it to make another source of revenue. They're not depending on it at all. So yeah, that's where they messed up.
Gotcha. And with that being said,
I was gonna say
yeah.
I'm gonna stay, but I'm gonna switch to my phone.
Okay. So with
Yeah.
that being said, the next question becomes then, what was their biggest downfall? And Stadia makes statement that Microsoft doing cloud service, cloud gaming, hit them really hard, and apparently, again, I need to reiterate because MD is now here. There was a rumor of them having an eye on Bethesda and later Activision, and both got bought. Well, Bethesda is bought by Microsoft, and Activision is pending right now. Would you agree to that, MD? That played in their downfall?
Well, I mean, again, it goes back to the points that like several other people have made as well, that you got to have first party content. And they thought that they were just going to walk in and be like, "Hey, we got trillions, so we're going to buy shit." And I'm like, despite what everybody says about Bethesda and the Microsoft deal, they have a very long history together. They have, I mean, if you go all the way back to the original Xbox and when Oblivion appeared on console for the first time, it was on it was on Microsoft's console. And so that relationship has been there for a long time, and it just makes sense, right? Because Microsoft they've never wielded the sword of PC gaming the way that they're slowly starting to move into. It's odd to me, for example, that Steam even exists. That should be Microsoft. That shouldn't be Steam. But Gabe Newell, who used to work for Microsoft, I guess figured out the way to get there and beat them to the punch because, again, Microsoft was not interested in gaming. The Xbox happened on accident, right? Like, they basically had a ragtag group of people at Microsoft that like to play video games who were like, hey, why don't we make a console? Because we have all the components here. Let's just make a little PC. And, somehow, some way they were able to do it. You could tell that they were trying to pivot out of gaming altogether during the Xbox One era, right? That wanted to be one of those things where they wanted to basically be in a scenario where, hey, we got TV and we got all this like streaming services and stuff like that. So the whole entire streaming thing has always been part of the DNA of Microsoft. And so what ended up happening is that they finally said, hey, guess what? We're going to merge this gaming and cloud computing and all this shit together, and we're going to turn that into a whole entire pillar. And so that's where all these acquisitions and stuff like that have basically come down. And so they're like, hey, we've got to have first party content. We've got to have an ecosystem for people to develop in. And the only way that this is going to work is, yes, they are using their previous experience in the industry, obviously with the original Xbox 360, all that kind of stuff. And they're finally like, yes, we're going to dedicate to this. Now, the interesting thing is, a lot of the people that are in key positions in Xbox need to go, right? You need to have some people who genuinely are on the creative side, the gaming side, and let those people kind of like run stuff. And my hat's off to Sony, because Sony's done an excellent job of doing this. They were very careful about how they spent their money. They bought teams that they knew would grow. They had leadership that understood what they needed to do to make those teams grow. And that's how we have the PlayStation of today, right? They got burned by Nintendo way back when they were supposed to be making a CD-ROM for the Super Nintendo. So instead of them bailing out, they said, screw it, we've come halfway, let's just go ahead and build the rest of it. How hard can this be? And that's how the PlayStation 1 generation came to be. You look at Stadia, they have none of that track record. They are a tech company first. Really, they're a search engine that just happens to be really, really good at advertising and getting monetization out of advertising. They took that money and they started investing in like, well, hey, let's look at the Android OS. Let's look at coming up all these different stuff. And if you look at their track record of success outside of their key business, they failed at almost everything, right? The only thing that's really kind of made it is the phones and the Android OS that they use for the phones and stuff like that. Outside of that, almost everything that they've touched, like the augmented reality glasses or, whatever else, Stadia, this, that, and the other, they've all failed. They have an entire graveyard full of failed projects. And they're so rich, it doesn't affect their bottom line. If they lose like $10 billion on something, they're like, Microsoft's the same way. It's like, oh, Nokia, whatever. Let's just go ahead and continue on. So, I think that when Satya Nadella came out and he basically said, we are taking gaming as one of the core pillars of Microsoft, people should be worried because they have so much money that if they had the right people, there is no debating or disputing who's going to come out on top eventually. People are going to say, oh, that's not true. It's like, you're hating on Sony. I'm like, no, I love Sony. I think Sony's fucking fantastic. That PlayStation 5 rocks, with its cock out. It's a beast of a machine. Some of the best titles I've ever played. But the bottom line is, how are they going to pivot? Because it's an order of magnitude difference. So, that's kind of what my thoughts are. Sorry
Okay,
for
so
rambling.
no, it's okay. We're having conversation. I have an update here because this is big. Shout out to two people, Holy Gamer and Jazz. 770, 7,780 one grind my gears. So he said this. Jazz reminded everyone of an exclusive deal Google made with Activision Blizzard early 2020, where Google Cloud infrastructure would be used by Active Blizzard. Makes you wonder why Microsoft direct competitors bought them. Eh? And then we have here a link to an gamers industry.biz where Activision, Blizzard and Google sign esports cloud deal. Overwatch League and other will air exclusively on YouTube and Google Cloud become preferred cloud service for game hosting. So it almost feels like history is repeating itself, and Nate talked about it with how cutthroat Microsoft is. Now that Microsoft, not Xbox, Microsoft have entered the gaming industry, it seems they're trying to kill it completely and take over. Cause this is no longer competing. You're literally now taking competition out of the game. Which result is Stadia. Which I would absolutely bet money, and I've said it multiple times on this podcast, I'm not a betting person. If Microsoft could kill PlayStation with this Activision deal, Blizzard deal, they would absolutely do it. So, my question would then be again to MD. Would you change your statement, or do you still think that Google have to left feet?
Look, I'm going to tell you this. I genuinely don't believe that Microsoft wants to kill Sony or Nintendo. I think what Microsoft wants is for Game Pass and the Xbox ecosystem to be available regardless of device. And I promise that if they can get their hands on being on the PlayStation 5, for example, or the PlayStation 6, or the next Switch, or whatever they call it, they may actually take a huge pause and say, we don't have to fight so hard on the console side because we want people to access our ecosystem, our cloud gaming, our library, And if we can do it on these two devices, maybe we can even bow out of the entire console market. So,
So you think they wanna go? I would agree with you. Like we have heard, quote unquote, not rumors, but like people have made speculation that Microsoft gonna go third party, this and that, and we heard that both PlayStation and Nintendo rejected Game Pass. So there is that. Like, but if that's the case, what you're saying, then why make Call of Duty and other games exclusive then?
well,
Why
so
make Starfield
you just
exclusive?
you just answered your own question, right? Because if Microsoft owns all these IPs, Sony knows how important Call of Duty is for their machine. Now Microsoft has a leverage in terms of negotiation to come back and say, "Hey, put Game Pass on PlayStation, and we'll let you have Call of Duty for eternity."
I
That
think
would
that's not gonna fly, cause that literally what the CMA have focused on. They literally focused on that. So
well,
in order for this deal to go through, Microsoft can do what you just said. Like, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we cover this a few weeks ago and CMA literally focused on this exact same method?
Yeah, they did. So their concern is Microsoft using this deal to position themselves in to put themselves in a position to strong arm the competition. Basically, whether to encroach their platform, um, like he just said, to get Game Pass in that case on PlayStation or on whatever other devices it's not on already, um, and to continue to strengthen the reason to have it, right? Um, and I believe ultimately that could be their potential final goal, like he was saying, to kind of back away from the console space because they eventually don't, that's a loss they no longer have to take, right? Hey, we introduced to you as Xbox, and now we're Xbox Game Pass, and we're on everything, and we no longer need to take the hit of creating hardware. We uh we now exist as this entity that is essentially everywhere, which makes sense because I told you that Nadella was famous for the Microsoft 365 subscription model, which then took um, Microsoft Office to skyrocketing numbers because all of a sudden it wasn't, hey, if you want to use Microsoft Office, you need a PC. It was, hey, you can access Microsoft Office from your iPad. You can access Microsoft Office from your Mac. We don't give a shit where you access it from because they knew dropping it on every single platform available was going to maximize profits, which is what Nadella specifically, that is what happened under his reign. That's something that he put it forth into action, and that is why it's like it is. And he is essentially treating this, current endeavor as that same thing. But in order to do that, they don't have the Microsoft Office Trojan horse. So what's the other thing you do? You do what Microsoft has traditionally always done. They go out and they buy the shit up out of the competition. Like, regardless of what anyone wants to say, that's exactly what they're doing. That is, and that's what they've always done, right? Whether they buy the competition and nuke them into the ground, whatever it is. Once they got them, right? Um, and in this case, you can purchase these companies, and they almost act, autonomously, right? They're already a thing. Unless there's a problem, you don't really need to do anything to them. I now own them. I now get their revenue, on top of what I've already got, and I use that to strengthen my platform, as in Game Pass. So, whether you play it on your Samsung TV, your computer, whatever, so on and so forth, right? So, yeah, I mean, I believe that is the ultimate goal. It's a very long goal, but um, like you said, I think that's exactly why the CMA is pushing like they are, right? The whole goal is to stop the company with all of the money from just doing whatever they want.
yeah.
That's literally the
Here's
point,
the problem. Here's the problem with the CMA and any of these other regulatory bodies that want to stop it. Right? When
Hmm.
you look at today, take a snapshot today. Who has number one market share in terms of game revenue, it's Tencent, right? Tencent makes more money than any of the other gaming companies. They're first. Sony's in the top three, right? So Microsoft is in position 4 or 5. Therefore, they're so far away from being number one. If they play their cards right, they'll get this deal passed because they'll be like, well, hey, even with this acquisition, we might come up to 3. And that's what they're banking on. And
No, actually, with this deal, I think they would either rival PlayStation or be above PlayStation.
no, they'll still be number 3 with this deal going through, which is why they went for the big deal right now. See, once they get Activision Blizzard under their belt, and you go out through 5 years, right? At that point, now Microsoft is really Activision Blizzard, and you've got Diablo, and you've got Overwatch, and you've got all these other games, Call of Duty, that are now in your stable and have been for half a decade. What happens at that point if Microsoft tries to go buy another Activision Blizzard? Absolutely, they'll cockblock them. They'll say there's zero chance we're going to let you do this again. So
They already told you that they want to.
well, what they're going to do is they're
Phil
going to
Spencer,
smaller.
said we're not stopping. He
No,
literally
they're
said
not.
we're
Of
not
course,
stopping.
because nobody's stopping, right? Tencent's not stopping. Tencent came out today and said,
Yeah, we covered that. The difference with everything with Tencent is not exclusive. Like, we would all rally against Tencent
they're not
if
exclusive yet.
Tencent had an exclusive platform.
So that deal that they made with Logitech to make the streaming handheld, that's them putting their feet in the water to decide, do we want to go into the console space? They're going to see what the public reaction is to that device. They're going to see, kind of like what the revenue is on that device. I mean, that device is a Trojan horse experiment right now. I guarantee it. They're looking at it because they're like, well, we're not a hardware manufacturer. Let's let the hardware part go to Logitech. We'll supply software and streaming and this, that, and the other. And let's just see how it works out. Because whoever it was that made the point earlier, if we don't have good enough infrastructure for a streaming only devices, like Microsoft did it right by adding xCloud as a bonus to being in the ecosystem. You get to play xCloud games for free as long as you've got one of our devices, you're connected to the internet, all that kind of stuff. And that's a key differentiator that Microsoft had, say, versus Stadia or versus, even the handheld that now Tencent has. So, the thing is that I have a feeling that at some point in the future, I don't know exactly how this is going to work out, but you're going to see some kind of collaboration between Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. That's going to happen because as the industry consolidates, these guys are, they're billion-dollar companies. Nintendo in particular has a very large cash surplus, but they're still not Microsoft. And when you've got people like Tencent putting this much time, energy, effort, and money into something, and they have software and they are a game publisher, then Tencent's a very dangerous company. They own 40% of Epic. You know what I'm saying? Like, people keep forgetting that because it's not a majority stake. And I'm like, bro, they own 40% of Epic. Epic, no matter what, is always going to have a relationship with Tencent that no other publisher or developer will ever have. Because nobody can buy any more of the the total amount of outstanding shares. Hell, Sony went and bought, 2.5% a year ago? And people are like, ooh, Sony's going to, have, first dibs on everything. I'm like, bro, are you not even paying attention? You don't even know what the hell's going on? Look at what Tencent's got. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay then. So the big boys are out to play. I think that there's going to be, they keep talking about industry consolidation. And Phil Spencer came out and said this. He's like, we want to make sure that companies like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft are there to protect gaming heritage. Now, read through the smoke screen. What he's saying is, we want to work with these companies. That's their code for saying, hey, we want to figure out a way to crack this nut so that the three of us can kind of sit there and corner the market on gaming. And he's thrown up that flag multiple times.
Dude, with all due respect, this is Phil Spencer we're talking about. That he says something and then in the next same breath said something either totally different or does something totally different. So again, I truly believe it, and I genuinely yeah.
he's differentiating between the Tencents and the Googles of the world versus Nintendo and Microsoft. I mean, Nintendo and Sony. I think deep down inside, there's a part of Phil Spencer that would love to buy Nintendo and Sony. If he not all of Sony, just the PlayStation brands. If he had the ability to, he would have put the money out there yesterday. Because when they first got into gaming, Microsoft tried to buy Nintendo. That was something they
Yeah.
actually pursued. Now they got laughed out of the office, but that will is still there, and they have tried to figure out how to get Microsoft into and onto those ecosystems and those, whether it's by buying it, whether it's through cloud services, they don't care. They're serious about figuring out a way to work deals with both of them. And I promise you, as time progresses, if Tencent drops a console, you're going to see a whole bunch of ripple effect that's going to change all kinds of crazy shit down the line. So, the business space for gaming is absolutely nuts right now.
Yeah, I mean it's all over the place, right? And I mean, to be fair to the regulators, we're speculating, and they got to go based on what they know, right? So like right now, there's not even a whisper of that happening, right? And Tencent, one thing I'll at least say, because this is something they're basing it on Microsoft, right? Is they go based on the history of the company, right? The company themselves and the parent company. Now, potentially Microsoft may want what you're talking about, but they may not be in that stage to do it. So right now, they're going to go based on what it looks like rather than what it might be. So I think that's the key thing. Now, if Phil and them really want that, they got to iron that out behind closed doors and make it, put it on paper, right? It can't be just, I promise, because that shit don't mean nothing in business. Somebody stab your ass in the back real quick. So I think that's really the key thing. Like, I won't say that you're wrong, because that might be right. Because like I said, if Microsoft is making that dedication, and me knowing what Nadella did, like I said, it was no longer like, oh, screw Apple. It was like, nah, hey, you want Apple? Here's Office 365. Pay us $29.99 a month, or however much it freaking costs. I don't know. I always use it through through work. I've never actually bought it, um, but however much it costs, and then their business doubled or tripled because everybody who was on an iPad, everybody who or people who even were on PCs that were holding off, that were like, I'll just use my old version on my PC. We're like, wow, now I can access my Word and my everything from my iPad, my iPhone, my freaking watch probably. Like I can go crazy with it now. Basically the same thing people love Apple for, right? When they come home and their phone, you know, is next to their iPad, they both ring and they both communicate and they both all that stuff. Like Xbox is definitely, or Microsoft rather, is more so looking to create that connectivity. I agree with you, but they got to make it clear to Sony at some point what their motives are entirely, as far as like the gaming industry and the console space specifically, because that is where PlayStation specifically, not Sony, is so successful, right? That's like a lot of people don't understand how successful, but it's like PlayStation was voted in the past like decade, like 3 or 4 times, as the most loved brand in like Europe or something. Like, and that's over Apple, that's over Nike, that's over Adidas, like any General Electric, any company you could think of. Not Sony, but PlayStation. So I mean that goes to show you how much people believe that they're doing what they want and giving them what they want. So I think, PlayStation is definitely not trying to bow out of that, because that is a serious money endeavor for them. Xbox is taking, Microsoft is taking the Xbox division much more seriously, but it's still not like that shit is pennies compared to what happens with the rest of Microsoft, right? With
I mean,
Office and Windows.
well, their cloud
So
service number one profit maker.
yeah,
I mean,
Azure.
I think over half of Microsoft's revenue comes from cloud services, which actually leads me
Well,
to,
yeah,
right, because Sony, like Microsoft, has done everything they possibly could do to get into bed with Sony. And Sony is just like, no, I'm not really feeling it. Not today. I've got a headache. I can't do this. And Microsoft's like, nah, fam. It's like, I'll give you whatever you want, baby. You just let me know. And so they came up with the whole entire concept of, hey, let's go ahead and sit down, make a deal with Sony, which interestingly enough, they did behind the back of PlayStation. Sony went directly to the CEO of Sony and said, "Hey, let us be the backbone for your cloud-based services and cloud-based."
When they made that partnership,
right. And so we haven't seen the fruits of that labor yet. There's like a memorandum of intent. Well, what is the intent? At what point do we get to see this? And I guarantee you that there are multiple high-level discussions that are happening within Sony, because I think there's more than one camp there. I think there's one camp that's pro doing business with Microsoft in the gaming space. I think there's another camp that is absolutely against it. And we just have to give it time, because at some point somebody's going to find the solution to that problem. Either it's going to happen or it's not. My feeling is Graham Poobah of the whole company is like, we're going to do business with Microsoft. Ultimately, we're going to see some movement there. Now, obviously, I'm hypothesizing out of my ass. Like, I don't have knowledge. I don't pretend that I do. I'm not like Jez Corden or any of these other guys that actually have like, industry resources. This is just me looking at like, I'm the sky kind of like grand business type stuff, macro type stuff. That's how I would approach a lot of these problems. And they seem common sense to me. I can't guarantee, obviously, any of it's going to happen.
True enough.
Gotcha.
I kind of lost a thought there.
Okay. The question would be, do you think, would you agree that Microsoft would clear PlayStation if they had the chance to? And would you agree that... Sorry?
No, unless there's a reason you can't fit it all in the car.
Okay, let me change the question then. Would you agree, do you think that my cloud being prioritized by Microsoft have almost like fucked over Google Stadia to be able to stay relevant?
I think they're like MD said, they're making up excuses because their failure is their own. Nobody is to blame but themselves. They fucked this up. As for Microsoft, they don't want to destroy Sony. I mean, in the end, if you ask any company, they would be happy if they would be the sole player in the market, right? So the question only is, does it make strategic sense, right? So indeed, are there other players that might come into the market to fill that void, and would that be a bigger problem for you than having the current players in the market? So yeah, it's a relative position or relative question, depending on what the outcome would be and what they think the outcome would be if indeed their competition would leave the market. But I don't think, realistically speaking, that's going to change in the near future. I think all three players will remain in this market because there's too much money to be made. The brands are too strong. And the only reason, let's say the only reason why a company would leave, like I think Microsoft used to be the only company that you could think of, could leave it because they have done it before and they have considered it, right? But I think now they with all the acquisitions they've made, I don't see them leaving anytime soon. I mean, they've sort of made their bet and they're they're here to stay, right? They've made that very clear. And it makes sense, of course, considering how lucrative the market is, and you still need to make sure that, I mean, look, we can look into what they're seeing, right? Maybe they're seeing some limits to their current, main breadwinners, and the fact that, look, we do need to diversify. We do need to make sure that we have other means of revenue. Should there, should we hit like a ceiling, or should there be, are we losing market share to our competitors? The deal, right? So I don't see anybody, any one of them leaving. I think they're there to stay. And yeah, I'm not really concerned about Tencent actually dropping a console, because we've had several Chinese consoles trying to corner the market. The problem is the brand and what it is associated with, right? So Atari also tried to come with a joke of a console, right? Anybody can drop a console in the market, and even if you are a whole household name, I'm not going to buy a Capcom console or a Square Enix console or Ubisoft console just because they're dropping that in the market. I don't think any of them are necessarily interested in doing so, because they're also seeing, okay, it's not necessarily the hardware that you need to have, it's the service, right? So if indeed they're moving more and more to services, then probably they're going to, we're already seeing them all they have. Like EA has their own, has basically a similar service, right? The Ubisoft, they all have sort of a service for their games, and I think that's sort of what you probably need to be worried about. But then the question is, they've bought into Epic, and Epic has their own launcher. So why would you create your own launcher if you already have a major stake in a company that has is basically already the main competitor of Steam, right? So, yeah, but it is definitely a very volatile time in the gaming industry. Interesting and maybe a bit frightening in terms of what is all this consolidation going to mean in the end? Is it going to mean games are going to be forced in a particular way that we may or may not like, or are things going to be more samey, right? That's a concern I have with the Game Pass model, where developers are incentivized to develop games in a particular way, to be very similar, to maximize that play time, basically, depending on what their deal is. But that deal also is going to eventually going to be less generous towards developers once Microsoft has enough market share, and going to be more standardized. So, and that will also result in more standardized games. So, I'm again interested, but also a bit concerned.
Can
Gotcha.
I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, of all the companies that are currently vying for pole position, right? Obviously, I think in terms of mind share, PlayStation comes out on top, despite the fact that Tencent actually comes out more with revenue, because a lot of the markets that they're in, and they own like Asobo, and they own some big, studios. They don't have like little chump change garbage studios. I would argue that Embracer has more of the trash studios that they got out of the bargain bin, but they do have a few good gems, especially in terms of their IPs. But who do you think is the most worried right now out of all the players that we've talked about? Me personally, I think Sony is the most concerned, because they are the king of the hill currently, at least in terms of the way that the gaming
Can you
world.
please repeat your question? Sorry.
So I was like, who do you think is the most concerned out of all the companies we talked about what's going to happen next? And I think Sony's the most
Oh
concerned.
yeah, absolutely, Sony. Cause I don't know how. Okay, so you always do your research, but are you aware just how big PlayStation depends on Call of Duty or other
Oh yeah,
Activision?
yeah, they're like the majority of the players.
Like 40%. So in order for PlayStation for Xbox to rival to just PlayStation 4, they need to count both Series X and S and Xbox One.
Yep.
Just so they come around 30%, while PlayStation 4 does 29%, if I remember correctly. However, the PlayStation 4 5, it's 41 something percent. So what? 70% of the market share, less than 70% is on PlayStation. So they would absolutely lose a lot. I don't think they would lose all of that. That's ridiculous to say, but they would absolutely lose a lot with that deal. So it's very understandable for PlayStation to be worried, and also Microsoft shot themselves in the foot with what they said. What basically was, when before they acquired Blizzard. Bethesda. Uh, they tiptoed around if games gonna be exclusive or not, and you had Bethesda developers and Bethesda what's called leaders and stuff like that come out and said that they want to stay and support PlayStation and stuff like that. And the second the deal went through, Microsoft announced that it's gonna be exclusive. And what happened is,
Well, no, it wasn't as soon as the deal went through. In fact,
no,
there
it
was
was
like,
actually the same deal went through. Phil Spencer came out and said, "Yeah, from now on, everything's going to be exclusive." He name dropped Starfield, he name dropped Doom, and then next, Elder Scroll. So
I thought
big, yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back and look that back
I
up
do,
because
cause
I was
that
I
literally
was
what CMA was focusing on.
well, I was under the impression that he because there was that whole entire like period of time where is Starfield going to be or not going to be,
Yeah,
and
they
it
tiptoed
was
on it. They tiptoed it. Yeah, precisely. And the
but
second the deal went through, literally almost the next day, if I remember correctly, he put out a
No, it
statement.
was like it was like a week or two, but in terms of business, it was like
Okay,
I mean, it wasn't that long after, but
yeah,
it was
okay,
like a week or two. They basically waited to bait the bullshit
yeah,
until they had that
precisely.
little stupid three people sit down event that was boring as fuck.
yep.
But yeah, they said it then, and they were
Yeah,
like, yes, they will be exclusive, as
yeah.
well as the next, whatever. And then he said it. But
Hmm.
yeah, it wasn't the next day, but they did
Okay,
clarify shortly after.
basically,
Yes.
so very short. Okay, to clarify, very, very, very short after the acquisition was completed. So
But
that's what I'm trying to explain to you, that CM, and this is why I'm frustrated with the FTC. Cause you know me, I respect Elizabeth Warren and stuff like that, but she is absolutely bungling this investigation. She clearly doesn't seem to care, because the CMA is doing more work and more investigation than the FTC seems to be doing.
yeah, well, so I all the games that I mean it. I understand the contracts and everything that Sony had with Activision Blizzard. And apparently, not only are they honoring those contracts, right, but they're adding 3 years to those contracts. So,
Yeah, and after
from a
that they're gonna remove it.
well, and I mean that's for Call of Duty, right? I mean, think about this though. It's like just because Sony had a deal with Activision Blizzard. When it comes to contract renegotiations, there's no guarantee that that's going to get rubber stamped and that you're going to be able to get that game again with those types of marketing deals and this, that, and the other the next time around. Because, Activision Blizzard, if they're an independent company, may be like, look, we know how important this game is to you. And now you got to be in a situation where you're going to have to give us, 40% instead of 30% or whatever, right? Like, they're going to negotiate some kind of, crazy thing potentially. And at that point, Sony could be like, you know what, screw you guys, we're out. So the fact that Microsoft came in and said, not only will we guarantee you this, but we'll guarantee for an additional 3 years after that, that is an ultra generous offer when you look at it from the standpoint of business and the way that these contracts are negotiated. Because, I think
No,
it was a 4 year, 6 year, 5 year, whatever the contract was for the marketing stuff. I mean, Sony locked it up last console generation and all like at least halfway through this console generation. So I'm just kind of like, bro, it's like, when Jim Ryan comes out and says, "Oh, these are wholly unacceptable. These are well below whatever we expected." I'm like, first of all, fuck you, because it's like you can't guarantee that you would have gotten a deal extended anyway. The fact
I
that you're getting
actually no. I actually believe they could. You know why? Because they are the market leader, and
okay,
again, more than 70,
To,
less than seventy
to be
percent
clear,
is on
so to
to be clear,
PlayStation.
we shouldn't confuse the marketing deal with the contract, but because we're talking about guaranteeing that the franchise would remain on the platform and guarantee parity, so that they wouldn't that Microsoft, for example, wouldn't get any exclusive
They can,
DLC
what?
or
Why
whatever.
would ask yourself this? Why would Activision go to Microsoft when their biggest fan base is on PlayStation? Their most money maker is on PlayStation. Why would they go to Microsoft that have nothing to offer? We have seen, do I need to remind you guys with a game called Cyberpunk 77? I forgot what it's called, where it literally had Microsoft marketing right, and it sold more on PlayStation. Like, nah.
yeah, that goes.
Activision would never go to. Yeah, what do you want to say, MD?
Well, I just want to say it's like Microsoft is not allergic to money, right? Like when they start flexing this muscle, I'm looking at it. Yeah, you're saying this shit, but it's like, how much money would you lose out on if you didn't have Call of Duty on PlayStation? I still can't imagine Microsoft being like, oh yeah, we don't need those billions of dollars.
No, no, no,
I
no. I think
but
they would risk it just to
no,
kill
no,
off
no.
a competition. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
This is what Jim Ryan is pissed off about is not the fact he knows that game will always be available on PlayStation. What he's pissed off about is Microsoft customers get to play that game for free on Xbox Game Pass. That's what he's pissed off about. And what he's trying to negotiate is you can't put Call of Duty on Game Pass. I think that's ultimately what his motive is, what his angle is, because he knows that if Game Pass has Call of Duty, a lot of people, that's the only game they play. They buy the console to play Call of Duty. And once they can play it for free on a Microsoft, device, they have no reason to hold on to their PlayStation 5. Now, for all my PlayStation people that are out there listening and whatever else, there's plenty of people that are going to be like, you're full of shit and blah, blah, blah. Well, you guys are hardcore gamers. You aren't the people I'm talking about, right? For people like us who actually love video games, almost all of us own multiple consoles. Whether you have a Microsoft system or not is beside the point, but almost everybody's got a PC and a Switch and a PlayStation. So, you're involved with all the ecosystems somehow. I think that what Jim Ryan is trying to guarantee and trying to get into, basically to prevent issues from happening is to make sure that that particular game, not only is it always available, but this goes back to the parity clauses they were talking about, that you can't access this game on a subscription service because if you do that, that may gut their, bottom line.
I think you might be on something with that, but I think it's a double whammy. It's the two, because remember, the CMA is already looking into that. Because now we said it what Innate said, which basically, if Microsoft gets Call of Duty and they put it in Game Pass, they can then strong arm it. That's what Jim Ryan is trying to prevent. And again, did you read the CMA? What's called analysis, or rather just investigation?
I've skimmed through it. I have not read the
Okay,
entire
so Yeah, me neither. It's just the bullet points. One of the key points that they said is this deal, no one is gonna feel it this generation. The key point is going to be the next generation when the PlayStation 6 and Xbox 2000 whatever is gonna come out. Then people are gonna be fresh. What I mean by fresh in the sense of they're gonna be ready to get new consoles, and based on where certain games are, if what's called Call of Duty is only on Xbox, they're gonna switch and get an Xbox,
Yeah, that's true.
and that's what the CMA is trying to prevent. I think, in order for this deal to go through, you gotta get it on writing. Call of Duty is never leaving PlayStation. And you might also get it that it's not going in Game Pass, which would
Well,
then.
I'm not even gonna say it's just Call of Duty. If
Oh yeah,
Xbox wants
you need Halo, you need
What
to.
Gamer MD is saying, right? They need to come in that room and be like, everything currently multi-platform developed by Activision Blizzard will remain on those consoles as the franchises continue forever, and within parity. Now, any other thing they make that's brand new and everything, have at it, right?
Yeah,
Because like I said, Overwatch is not a small thing. Overwatch is massive. Like I said, I hate that game, but I recognize the success of that game. I also recognize the success of Diablo, which is largely on PC. Don't get me wrong, but their last foray over to consoles was very successful. Um, so I think they need to come to terms with that if that's what they want, and they want that, to what you stated earlier, actually, MD. The reason Tencent is as high as they are revenue wise is largely because of all that mobile shit. Which I like. Don't even get me started on how much I hate mobile gaming and the trappings of mobile gaming, but that is the big reason why they have, revenue wise are so damn high, which is one of the things that would push revenue wise for gaming Xbox so high is because of King and Candy Crush. So, like, obviously, PlayStation don't give a fuck about Candy Crush. That's what I'm saying. If they really are just like, we want them under us and we don't want to take shit away from PlayStation, put that shit in paper, put it in parody, and be like, now all the other shit that we make thereafter, though, that has nothing to do with those franchises, because let's be real, it's not a lot, right? Like
yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's a few things. Like in comparison to popular IPs, like on consoles, like they have like three, and Bethesda had like fucking 20. So
The
yeah,
only
like
thing
the
they can
Bethesda
do
thing has
is
more.
revive, for example, a prototype. Like that would be big, but that's not on
Well, yeah,
Microsoft end.
yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, that's
it,
fine, right? Because that's not something that is currently active or has been
yeah,
active within the last time. I'm talking about
yeah.
just those set of games that are currently available. Lock it in and be like, we're good with parity with you guys for the foreseeable future, so long as we continue these franchises. Done, and then it'll go through like water. I promise you. But they don't, for some reason they don't want to do that, right? Like that's why I said if only if they want exactly what Gamer was saying, which is to reposition themselves, take that manpower from, from that team and get that revenue under their belt and be able to produce more in other things, right? So that's why I'm curious, what is holding it back that they don't want to do that specific thing? Because if nothing's holding them back, from making that deal, just do it, because that would
Mhm.
stop the CMA from going, what are you going to do after? They don't have to ask the question anymore. Microsoft would just be like, here, in writing, this is what we are going to do. That's it. We're not going to do nothing else with it. Now, everything else we make in the future, that's not on the table. The same way with Bethesda, right? All the new shit is off the table. But in this case, everything that is currently made remains. And that's it.
Yeah, this is why I don't believe you're ever gonna get that in writing, because it would negate everything Microsoft is trying to do.
Yeah,
And
because
I don't.
I personally don't. I personally don't think it being available on Game Pass would change anybody's mind because there's still a huge amount of games that are on PlayStation that people are gonna want to play. Um, you know what I'm saying? And they're not gonna switch. Like me, for instance, I like to play Call of Duty on PlayStation. Period. I always have. I wouldn't care. I have Game Pass. I still wouldn't play that shit on Game Pass. Like that's just me, right? Like I made my choice, and like you said, there's people like my friend. He wants to play. Literally, he just wants to play Call of Duty and NBA 2K, and he asked me, "Hey, how easy is it to get a Series X right now? You know, I want to get a Series X." Boom. I didn't say anything. I didn't say, "Hey, you should get a PlayStation." None of that shit. I already know him. That's where he's been playing. That's where he wants to play. Like it's not a big deal. Now, yeah, if you could lock all that in for underneath Game Pass, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he would be specifically happy. But even if it was reversed, he wouldn't like turn and get a PlayStation. Like if that was all up under PlayStation, PlayStation Plus, he wouldn't. Now I'm not saying you're wrong that some people wouldn't. I think some people would. But another reason is because also PlayStation is uh, the competitive
Hmm.
console for Call of Duty, which is another been down that 360 was better to play Call of Duty, which I knew was factually wrong because I had played it on both, so I knew people were full of shit. But um, like I still played it on PlayStation. Like that's just what it was. And I had a PC back then. I got the PC now. I don't want to play it on PC. For
Yeah,
reasons of
problematic for a lot of
all
reasons.
these
Just
ridiculous amount of cheaters, but that's a
cheaters.
whole other thing.
But
You said
yeah,
I
what?
mean,
yeah. What do you say?
I was just saying the cheaters on PC are just ridiculous. Like it's so stupid you can't even. I mean, the game is unplayable, and having crossplay with PC is just dumb. Ultimately, like
Agreed. Agreed. Hey, we both agree on that shit. Like, you're like
Mm,
the one person on PC that agrees with me with that shit, but like PC dudes be like, nah, what you talking about? It's perfectly fine. They cheat on console too. And I'm like, bro, look, I've been playing on PC before some of y'all been alive. I was
dude,
right.
like,
you
it
have
is
no idea.
not the
They
same.
don't. Yeah.
No,
So
Yeah.
so
literally, you can spend $20 and just go and like have auto. Like you can see through walls. You can have aim assist out the wazoo. Literally get headshot every time, regardless of
Yep.
gun. You know, and I mean, they I think it was Persona that actually showed a clip of somebody cheating in the beta, and I was just like,
Yeah,
holy
yeah, he did.
shit,
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
the betas I was
he could
cheating a
see through
lot.
walls. He could see through walls, and the person would light up specifically when they were targetable. So like the other people that you were seeing through walls were a different color, and then they would show up targetable.
Yep.
Once they got in the range, and then your gun would just kind of you move towards them, and it would just kind of like right on their head,
Yeah, it would
no
be headshot
recoil.
every one because he would get the person would get 3 shots off and the person would drop,
So
and
yeah.
like there was no chance. I mean, it's like you literally now imagine if you have an entire squad of people that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's
So
you
about
can't.
that, according to Sumo, this was a honeypot set by Activision, and they're now starting to terminate, who know, the cheaters. Which I hope that's the case, because that's messed up, dude.
Yeah, honestly, I think that there's a lot of balancing problems with Call of Duty. I mean, and I'll be honest, I did not play the beta, so I can't speak from first person experience. But just listening to everybody in the community kind of talking about things, I mean, obviously there's things that could be worked on, improved upon. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is betas, they happen like a month before the game releases. Well, even if you give them a laundry list of stuff that can be fixed, doesn't mean that it's actually going to get fixed in a reasonable amount of
Oh,
time. So,
oh, I have even better
like,
news
I
for
don't.
you. They already came out and said everything that you have issue with, we're not gonna fix it. They would rather cater toward the casuals than the hardcore gamers.
Well, here's the other problem too, right? Like they need to have a casuals mode, they need to have like a pro circuit mode. That's one thing that I really, like in Gears of War, like when they had like the competitive modes that they had, you could play casual modes if you wanted to. But then the weapon balancing and this, that, and the other were all different when you actually came on to like the competitive stuff. And my only issue is that like you also don't want to cater to the pros because if you cater to the pros, everything feels a little bit off. right? Like there's not it's not as forgiving as it would be if it was just aimed towards the middle tier gamer.
Then
So I
balance
think
it.
my biggest problem with it, having played and listening to what they said, is that at any given time frame, you cater to camping. That is that is literally not the goal of Call of Duty at all. Well,
Yep.
like he actually said that. One of the designers was like, whether you like to, whether you like to rush, whether you kind of like to be a sentry and sit back and hold the spawn for your team, which is all fine, right? Those are things people do. And then he said, or you like to camp. We're trying to make sure there's a fun way for everyone to play. And I was like, they were showing like cameras, systems you could set up so that you could see behind you and shit. And I'm like, stop creating things that entice people to camp and help them camp better. Like, stop. Like, that messes up the clean 3-lane flow design of the map, the lanes of engagement. It messes up so much stuff, but they just don't seem to care. They're just like, oh, look, by the way, you can also go underwater. That'll be fun getting popped up on by somebody, right? Woo, water fights, yo. Like, that's basically their impression while they were talking. I was like, I feel like they're just not even taking it seriously at this point. Like not what Call of Duty had been for the people that have played it. Call of Duty being purely about the clean 3-lane design and engagement within those zones, and it's like it seems to get further and further away from that. Like they were on the right track with this one, and then just messed it up immediately with all this extra stuff they added. And it's just like I don't know. That's why, and this is why I told somebody, as someone who was a really big fan of COD for a long time, I think now more than ever, although this Call of Duty is gonna be popular, right? People have been wanting a good one. They're really hoping they're gonna get their stuff together with this one, right?
Their
Um,
coffee,
yeah, but I think it's very vulnerable right now for a really good shooter that focuses on it. Not all these powers having shit, like Overwatch and all that stuff, or Destiny. None of that. Pure, clean 3-lane design. You know what I'm saying? You versus the other team. Straight up gunfights. Grenades and Simtex. Like, get rid of all the other crazy stuff. So
I
yeah,
already
we'll
lost
see.
you, but okay.
He knows.
Um,
Gamers played. He knows.
yeah, okay. Morgan, you have anything to add?
They pretty much said everything.
No.
I mean,
Weeb?
That's what happened when
Morgan's
you
just
just
keeping it
make me
real.
go last, Omar. God.
Oh,
Yeah. Weeb?
Yeah, I'm last. But yeah, you were talking about Call of Duty, and I don't give a shit.
I feel you, but we're talking in general why Microsoft wants that for the deal to go through. That
Well, why they want a deal to go through is obviously want to buy Activision, so that's not hard. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure that Microsoft wouldn't pull Call of Duty if they could, because yes, it's a lot of money, but we're also talking about $1 trillion company, so they can afford it if they want to.
mm-hmm.
The thing is, yeah, and the reason why Jim Ryan, I mean, we can speculate what he actually wants or what he's actually thinking, but based on purely what he shared, essentially, Microsoft Phil Spencer is saying, yeah, no, Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation. Saying, look, that's not what you told us. You're giving us a guarantee 3 years after the contract ended, so the current contract ends, but no more. So you're not giving us a guarantee that it will remain there in perpetuity. And that would be the case, obviously, if Activision was still a third party, because there would be no incentive for Activision to pull Call of Duty from PlayStation if that's the biggest selling platform. And basically, they're going to put it on any platform that can support it, right? So, I mean, obviously it's not on the Switch because it can't run it natively, but they're going to put it on any platform that supports it. So, yeah, I mean, we don't know what their intention is, but they're certainly going to use it as a bargaining chip, and whether that's with exclusive content, with putting it day and date in Game Pass, or maybe pulling it, or maybe pulling certain titles from, because that's also a strategy. Of course, you could also say, make the Modern Warfare iterations exclusive to Xbox or something, right? And that will have a sort of gradual effect, because eventually, at least they're assuming it will have a gradual effect that people will eventually go to Xbox. Yeah, we have to wait and see, because there's also, of course, the other scenario that Microsoft completely messes up the Call of Duty franchise, and it will disappear just like other franchises that were massive in the past and no longer exist. I mean, at the time when I was playing, when I was gaming, Medal of Honor was like a big shooter at some point in time, and now nobody's ever heard of it, right? So it can happen. I mean, I'm not saying it will happen. I don't think it's likely, but all scenarios are possible in the end. So we have to wait and see how Microsoft handles this, and first of all, let's see if the deal goes through, right? Because that's the first question we have to answer. And while I still somewhat inclined to believe it will go through with certain stipulations, there is a possibility it won't, because we are assuming that that they won't be able to get another publisher after the Activision deal, but maybe this also is this is the biggest publisher in third-party publisher in the industry. So there's also a possibility that this might be the one that essentially the straw that breaks the camel's back, because their procurement of Bethesda is a wake-up call, of course, because they've seen, okay, yeah, Microsoft isn't stopping, they're on playing, and yeah, they also have no intention of keeping existing franchises on all platforms, because they've said that so with Elder Scrolls. So yeah, at least some investigation is probably the bare minimum you have to do to make sure that it's not going to disrupt competition in a way that will affect consumers negatively, because that's essentially the role of these regulatory bodies. But we'll have to wait and see, because I don't know at this point in time. I'm still, if I were a betting man, saying it's going to go through, but we'll have to see.
Gotcha. With that being said, we have come to the end of this podcast. I cannot stress it enough. Thank you, MD, for coming through. You had a rough day, and then to drive 45 minutes only to come here. I appreciate it more than you know.
No, absolutely. I'd love to. I'm sorry that most of the time I'm working. Like I
Yeah,
early.
I have you, I have Salty, and I have Brab. All three are difficult to reach on this time. But I cannot again stress it enough. That's the fact that you came on here, I appreciate a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
So yeah, where people can find you?
Sorry, say that again.
Where people... Oh, you're not just a podcaster. Where people can find you?
Oh, find me. You could come over to look up for GamerMD on Twitter. You can also look up Alexander Tyler at Alexander Tyler on Twitter. I still have not gotten into a full and proper podcast, but that's
Yeah,
because
what happened with you and Guap and the rest?
So long story short, I personally am in a place where it's like I have ordered a PC to be custom built for me, and they kept kind of like basically I kept pushing the envelope and like, hey, I want a 3090 Ti. Now I want the 4090. So enough to allow me to keep pushing everything forward. So hopefully sometime in October, early November, I'll actually have my PC and I'll be set up. And once that happens, then I'll be able to kind of get into it. So basically, everything's been kind of put on hiatus, and it's been on a back burner. In addition to that, I took a month off this summer. Decided to go out to Wyoming and
Oh yeah, when you show me the pictures of you in the
yeah,
mountain, right? Yeah.
absolutely. I went and took all that time, and then I was just kind of like, hey, I need to recenter myself a little bit, just because it's like the first break I've had since all the COVID stuff, and there's been a lot of drama and stuff that was happening. The spaces were getting derailed on a
Dude,
regular, and
you
so
know Spaces is always on fire.
yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people have kind of like moved. A lot of the people have just kind of taken a break, myself included. So while that's kind of all going on and I'm getting my PC built, I'm still working on stuff behind the scenes. I'm just not ready to kind of hit it hardcore. So I appreciate you for allowing me the opportunity to kind of give myself a shout out. Thank you.
Anytime, man. Again, can't stress this enough. Shout out to Gabriel MD. W- w- I would almost say the only person that I truly believe is what's called console agnostic. Like he is biased over Gears, but he have eviscerated Microsoft on multiple times, more times than I can count. So yeah, shout out to you, and yeah, I wish you the best, man, with whatever you're gonna do. Cause I always enjoyed your spaces, man. Always fun, always creative, always informative, and mind you, he used to not only do gaming spaces, he used to do also medical ones, knowledge ones, and also politics ones. But yeah, with that being said, where people can find you?
You can find me as the Weep Sheriff at Infant Rhizome on Twitter, and also as the Weep Sheriff on YouTube.
Gotcha. Morgan, where people can find you?
It's Morgan, aka Chill Bandit. You can find me on Twitter at Chill Bandit. Shout out to the fellow cast members. Shout out to MD. Thank you for coming. It's always great to hear your perspective. And shout out to the chat. See all of you guys next Saturday.
Nate, where people can find you?
Yeah, on Twitter at the real Nate. Spitting nothing but facts, no lies, no bullshit. Always gaming, as usual.
Are you
And
sure?
we out. Absolutely.
Questionable. But we will see.
I know, because you a cyberpunk hater, but that's okay.
Yeah, for
Because I'm
sure.
gonna play it some more tonight.
Yeah. Viper Reap, you can find him at Viper Reap at Twitter. He is slithering back in his corner. As for me, shout out to everyone that came through. MD, again, I can't trust this enough. Crew, you already know. And shout out to everyone that came through. Very quick, shout out to Fox Mamba. Shout out to T-Fresh. He made it on time. Whatever that may be. And shout out to Harry Tran. And yeah, people can find me at Karaba_Chab on Twitter. And Anime Squad every Friday 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And Vitamin G Podcast every Monday 8 p.m. Eastern Time. With that being said, this was a great podcast. And we're out.